Hello, everybody. It is your Uncle Fish back again for School Fish Art Stream. J-Man wants Gatling gun on the end of his tail. Oh my goodness. J-Man says the tail's where you put all the heavy artillery. Yeah. Said he used to have a howitzer on the end of his tail. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Bickerin Beards, the brand new podcast that gives you the most beard for your buck. I am your ever-loving host, Uncle Fish. I am one of the fastest creators in indie comics, and over here we have got my buddy T.S. Luther. Introduce yourself, man.
Hi, everybody. I'm TS and I write comics, and I need a shower.
That's about the end of the show, folks. Thank you. Now we cut over to the Patreon exclusive features where we watch. Now we kick over to the OnlyFans where we watch you take a shower.
From now on, when you introduce me, I'm going to go on. I'm going to introduce every single comic book I've ever written, and I'm going to give you a synopsis. Because, listen, in my head, I was like, keep it short, keep it sweet.
Page one.
Picture it, Sicily.
Oh man!
Listen, you know what? I'm tired. I've been moving. I've been shaking. I've been talking to comic book publishers, both good and bad. Diamond went out of business this week, and every other distribution center is eating their lunch. So I'm messaging everybody that I just got their details with. I'm like, hey, are we still good? Is this still happening? Do I still have a job on Monday? And they're like, oh yeah, no, it's fine. Everything will work itself out. But that's not how anxiety works, Fish.
Oh
so
no!
I'm tired. I'm crazy.
No. Anxiety won't let you sleep, won't let this be the end of it. No, it cannot be. Should not be, will not be. Yeah, I feel you, man. It is. Anxiety's a beast, dude. I got to fidget with something here.
Morning, everybody. Hasty Reacts 2. What's going on, dude? Geek Speak Podcast. Go check that out. But not right now, because you're watching our show.
Yeah, stick around here and hang out for a minute first. Man, it is. I've been busy cranking away work all week. Last few weeks, man, I got all the pencils and inks done for that project that we're working on for in the future. I got a whole bunch of pencils done and the lettering done on the Sentinels. I just sent through pages 10 off to the flatter to get flatted for Green Zone, which is going live February 3rd. It should be done completely before the campaign even ends. It's super exciting. What's up? I'm telling you, man. You come for the beards, you stay for the comic book talk. But the beards get the ladies in the door. Let's be honest.
They're looking rough today. That's the thing. So my wife digs this look, right? This is why I look like this. Luckily, she's got weird taste. This is what she likes. But the other day, we were packing up orders. I got to send you a picture. I have 60 orders that had to get packed in one night. And I was like, I need help doing this. And she has a different day job. She's got a normal job. She's a dental hygienist. She cleans teeth all day. And so she can't be up all night. And she did. She stayed up. She packed like I said, 60 orders with me while I'm typing in all of their information to go to the USPS site. And I woke up looking like this, and she still looked pristine. I'm like, what is this magic? What did you do? Why do you look so good and I look like this? And I remember it. I'm like, because I'm me and she's her, and this is why I write comics.
My wife will be like, "Oh, I look so bad, Mo. My hair. Oh, don't take a picture." I'm like, I would pay money to look that cute, dude. I would pay money to look that put together. I would blow all my money to go get my hair did if it would make me look that cute all the time.
We have faces for radio. It is what it is. This is why we write comics and we're not models for comics.
I've been modeling too. That's the thing. I have been taking so many pictures of myself, especially in Green Zone, because I don't want to give too much away, but there is a bit running through the last few pages that I worked on where something stinks in this hospital really badly. And so that's a face I don't draw very often, scared, happy, angry. I draw a whole lot of angry gritting teeth. That's real common in comics, but oh God, what is that? I don't draw a lot of that. So at first I was making faces and feeling my eyebrows and trying to see what they're doing. And I was like, I have a supercomputer in my hand with a freaking film studio in it. I could just take pictures
Take
of
this
myself.
picture, man.
So I have all these pictures of me in my phone just making the most god awful reactions to things. And then I have to figure out, how do I transpose this ugly mug onto like a cute girl's face, and like I have to like mentally subtract the beard and everything and try and figure out what's going on under the mustache and make sure I get it right. But it's been fun. It's been exciting. It has stretched muscles. I never thought I never imagined drawing so many like stinky faces.
I'm curious if now that you've used yourself as a reference, and I know you use your hands all the time, and like that pops up all the time. But now that you've used your face, are you gonna pull an Alex Ross and everybody across of all of your comic books? Are they just gonna start slowly looking a little bit more fish-like? Like, is
They
it just gonna
used to. It used to be a really bad thing when I was in high school. I kept a mirror right above my drawing table for facial references and stuff, and mostly like, what does the head look like in three-quarter view or whatever and stuff. What are the how much of the eye can I see if I turn my head this far?
right?
And so like it really, a lot of people tended to look like me, and surprisingly enough, I found out if I used my face as a reference for ladies, especially when I was in high school, it worked pretty well. My features came off a little more feminine than they do now in my old age. Yeah. The beard kind of, offsets quite a bit of that.
The beard throws it on. Like, I was like 100 pounds soaking wet in high school, and now I am definitely not. And like, it
Now I'm
definitely
just
changed.
soaking wet.
Humble Juan, hit us with it, man. Is this Juan of the Demon Cop fame? Because I
Oh,
only
there we
know
go.
5 people on the internet. They're all in this chat.
We're here for your
Uh,
questions, man.
well, actually, I'm here because Fish pays me very handsomely. I'll expect the check by Monday, and I really, really appreciate it. Make sure you add a few more of those zeros. I know we talked about it, and I would like them
Man, I'm gonna add
before the
6 right
decimal.
to the front,
Yeah.
man, right there for you.
No, before the decimal. uh,
Which character that you created is your favorite? Oh,
that's unfair, man. That's like trying to pick my
oh,
favorite kid.
yeah. Oh, I know my favorite kid. That's easy. Um,
I was speaking to your least favorite kid yesterday on TikTok because his TikTok is blowing up more than both of ours, which is unfair. And of course, so I had to have words. And I was like, listen, you got to wait your turn. You can't be blowing up like this, doing all this awesome stuff. Also, hey, your dad's washed up. When can we work together? I don't know how much further we're going to be able to go. I'd love a job with you. So we'll see how that goes. But go follow Barely on TikTok.
oh man, yeah, Bear Lee Art is, yeah, you need to follow him. His stuff is it, he's doing amazing work. He's been doing some amazing stuff with me. I've been pitching him out to other people because he does do good work, and he's finally to that point now that he's ready to really start grinding and start getting stuff done. And he's doing good stuff. If you've read Alice Lost in Wonderland, you've seen his coloring, and I guarantee you can't pick his pages from mine. He did a really good job on it, and I'm really happy with it. Um, which character is your favorite so far? He asked. That's hard because like they're my favorites for different reasons. Just like each one of my kids are favorite for different reasons. Like my oldest has the most grandbabies. So that puts him really high in the running for like, my favorite with grandbabies because I get to go over there and play with them. What's up, Jay man? Um, but then like, the ones that I like to joke around with the most, or the ones I like to watch movies with the most, like, it's kind of the same thing. All my characters are like pieces of me, like Virgil in Green Zone, the 8 foot tall lizard monster is absolutely what it feels like to be bigger than everybody else, to be scary to other people when, you're not that scary a person on the inside necessarily. Sometimes he has to keep up that front to keep people away, but he's not he's not a scary person. Where like Danny Kim, his training officer, is this little skinny Korean kid, and he's real fast talker and everything, and he's like my mask for talking with neurotypical people amped up to 11. And the whole, hey, it's your Uncle Fish, glad to see you, you like indie comics, I got the most indie comics in the world. He's that taken up to 11. And also like he is my my BSing my way through things, or like
Yeah.
my bravado making it through situations that could have ended really badly, and he just kind of bluffs his way through life, and so he's that. Where Bellamy is absolutely what it feels like to be in a body that hurts all the time. Be afraid of hurting the people around you on accident. Cause, like, if TS steps on your toe, it hurts. If I step on your toe, you're going to the hospital. You may lose that toe. And I've broken people's feet in the theater by accidentally stepping on their foot. Like it, I'm scared of hurting people because, I'm a big dude. So that's absolutely it. J Man is one of the like three people in the world that are super excited for Green Zone to come out. He's one of the three people that has consistently asked me for more Green Zone, and he is like 90% of the reason that you're getting it
Well,
because
I can answer the question, but first I have a bone to pick with J Man. He says your guest, like I haven't been on this stream every single month for like the last 6 months, and every single book that you've bought, J Man, over like the last 2 years from Fish, my name's been on it, man.
oh yeah,
It's
his
right
name's like right
here.
there on the cover.
It's right here on your screen. I'm at TS Luther. I write comics, man. Like I'm
Though
here.
in his defense, J Man's not really on TikTok, and you're not
Oh,
really on
J-Man, come
Facebook.
on. It's the only
So
place where I am. I don't have any friends anywhere else.
you should come over to Facebook more. I can introduce you to some friends.
It's
There's a
so
whole lot of
scary.
toxic stuff over there too, but like J Man's there.
I'm
And
gonna go over to Facebook just for J-Man.
oh yeah,
But my
it's
favorite
worth it.
characters are whichever one makes me the most money. So usually the stuff I write for Fish. Hellion and Bash, #1, all of those characters, and #2 is on Kickstarter right now. You can go check that out. But really, I love writing witty characters because I love writing jokes and dialogue. So
Mhm.
my book Tokyo Fire, which is mostly quips, right? It's mostly like high octane fights and like chase sequences with really fun dialogue in between. So whenever I can write a character that's like Indiana Jones or John McClane, where they're just spitting one-liners and they're going back and forth, I love that crap because I talk way too fast because I have ADHD. And so if I get to do that on screen and it doesn't come off as me trying to copy Joss Whedon, that's going to be my favorite character. Uh,
That
you
was
know?
the thing that really struck me with Tokyo Fire was it when I was reading it, it felt like, busting balls with your buddy. Like it felt
Yeah.
like a bunch of little, like, oh yeah, well, psh, well, your mama, well, psh, well, psh, it got that fun vibe of those quips back and forth with somebody that you've known for a long time. And I enjoyed that part of it a lot.
That's the stuff that I love writing because, like you said, we put a little bit of each of ourselves in all of our characters, and that's the thing that I do, and it gets me in trouble sometimes. Like I can talk shit with Fish all the time and make fun of them, but I've been on podcasts like this where I've started talking shit. It did not go so well. That's why the only other podcast I'm on is the Geek Speak podcast with Steven Reacts too, because they understand that I'm full of crap. But I've been on shows where I'm like, I don't get invited back because I talk too much shit while I was on.
It
Oh man.
happens. It happens. I've got especially the later a show gets, like some of these podcasts I go on are like, "Oh yeah, we're starting at 10 o'clock," and I'm like, "Oh god, I gotta take a nap." And like the later it gets, the goofier I get, and the little more risque I get, and the filter starts to come off when I get tired. What's up, Six
What's
Goo?
going on, Six Skills? It's okay, J man. You watch it. Show your boss. They probably love us too.
Oh yeah, man. His boss had a big time watching me draw one time. We had all kinds of cracks and stuff on that.
Show them the
Uh,
book. Head on over to Kickstarter. Go click the notify me button for Green Zone #4 and Hellion and Bash #2, and have him buy a copy. In fact, buy him a copy and
mhm.
tell him that he owes you on your next paycheck. Silver Phantom LX. How do you guys feel about looking at other art for reference? I don't know about Fish. I mean, Fish is an okay artist. Me, very, very good artist.
Yeah.
I watch like all sorts of references. I look at a million references for everything that I draw, and it's because I stink. I stink at drawing. I need to see how Fish does a certain line, and I will go do it. The trick is you don't look up an image that's exactly the same as what you're doing. You look up a million different images, and you reference
Mhm.
tons of stuff, tons of reference. So you're not just taking in one thing; you're taking in a million. So it's an amalgamation of all the stuff that you've looked at. So I look at reference for almost everything I do because I'm not talented. Fish, on the other hand, one or two references that he created himself, and then he creates a masterpiece, which is just unfair, and it's why I can't afford to pay him very much.
I I do more and more now. The further along I'm getting, the more I'm looking at references, because the more I'm like, I can do better than fake it. Like for instance, I was just doing this scene in Green Zone where they're in the hospital, and I was like, I could fake it, or I could actually look at some references of what these hospital, bays look like with all the beds, and make sure the machinery and stuff actually looked like, machinery that would take your blood pressure and stuff like that, and heart monitors and things, instead of just here's a box in the corner, and I'll put some squiggles on it and some buttons.
It's
And
the details that I think makes a lot of our stuff stand out. Like that's something that even on my crappier artwork, because like I'm mostly a writer. I don't draw a lot of stuff. I do some covers and commissions and stuff. But when it comes to interiors, I go to Fish, and that's why I go broke. So I'm like, here, Fish, take all my money, please draw something for me. And but the way that I trick people into thinking that I'm good at it, it's the details. I'll go and look at something and I'll capture something that they wouldn't have
mhm.
otherwise, because people would look at it and go, well, I don't need to put the stitches on those overalls that I'm drawing because it's just a minion. Who cares? But because I put that on there and a few of the weird stains that you get on jeans or denim, it's like, oh, wow, that actually looks pretty good. And that's the trick that Fish has with every single interior piece I've ever seen of a building. He's like, yeah, I actually went down to City Hall, took a few pictures, and this is exactly the bookcase that they use, but it wasn't quite the right angle. So I went and bought the bookcase, built it, turned it 90 degrees, took a picture of that, and that's how I drew that. But I also needed to
I
put books
built
on
it
the
from
shelf.
scratch. Thank you very much. I'm a carpenter with some self respect.
And then I
I'm
wrote
not going to
65
put together
books.
some IKEA thing for a reference. No, sir. I would not.
So
How
I wrote
dare
this
you?
story that we're pitching right now to a bunch of publishers, and there's like a creepy manor in it. And I go, Fish, like, don't worry about it. The idea is inside the manor shifts. So you never have to draw it same twice. And he goes, I'm going to draw it the same every single time. I built the entire architecture for this 3-story building. You will never change it. It looks like this. And this is every single book on this bookshelf in City Hall, by the way. And I wrote all of them in there. And because you're extreme and I appreciate it so much. And it's why we have to trade
Now
work back and forth. I can
the
never afford
books
you.
might get a little repetitive, but the paperwork by George in the background, I went the extra mile on the paperwork, and I made actual forms for the actual city and like filled them out, even though most of it got cropped off once it got put on the page. But by George, that is actual paperwork for the city of Wilmington to have an assembly. Like I by George, I did it right.
It's gonna be so good when we have to like send out extras, because I can go, hey Fish, send me some of the like the full art
The
images
whole
of the
thing.
paper, because like we need back matter, and you have it because you're crazy. So
Oh,
like it works just fine. J-Man says, Fish, check your messages later. I sent you new Masters of the Universe figure announcement. Oh
oh,
man. All
cool.
right. So now I'm gonna have to write more caw,
Yeah,
because the second
because
you
we
get
got to get.
excited about He-Man, you're like, we gotta go back to the toy universe. I can't write Green Zone anymore. Alice is boring. I need to write action figures punching each other.
Mm. How do you decide what to put on the inside covers of your books? That's a good one. I mean, like, it, it's gotten pretty standard, like what goes on the inside cover in on an indie comic, particularly. Um, but then, like, how do you make it look like? That's something where that's why I look at Kickstarter as an investment, because I am actually like I'm researching other people's books, seeing what all the other indie creators out there are doing, what works, what didn't work, what paper stock feels nice, and like a lot of the inside front and back cover like matter that I've seen is like, "Oh, this is really cool," or "Ooh, this is really bad. I want to stay away from this," or "Oh, I love how striking and graphic this ad was for, their other books on the back cover." So I made one. I didn't just rip off like John Avina for Avina Comics had a really neat, really cool graphic image that showed like a couple of his other books with a synopsis. I didn't just do it the way he did it. Like I did it coming from different angles and, put a paint splatter across it and stuff. But I loved how simple and direct and boom, this section is talking about, you know, Devil in the rearview mirror. This section is, talking about King Midas and, all the other books and stuff he's got going on. Like I loved how graphic it was. So I took that idea and then took some stuff I liked from other books and other themes and put it all together and made one that I like, but I'm still probably going to change a dozen times. Um,
For me, it's going to be the interior credits. I want to get to the
Mhm.
story as fast as possible. So if you're opening it, if the inside cover can be, hey, this is by T.S. Luther, this is by this artist, and like maybe sometimes like a summary of what the issue is if you're buying an issue
I
two or
love a good
three,
summary because,
you
like,
got to have one,
maybe you're coming in on issue 4,
right?
but if it gives you a brief synopsis, so I know what I need to know, and now I can enjoy this book, that I'm good. I'm good. I
Exactly.
like
And
that.
then
I
I
pick that up from
usually
Aceless.
over designed, like I try to make it look really cool because that's the only interior art that you usually see from me in any of my books is I design all the credit pages. So like on Tokyo Fire, I went really hard, make it look pixelated like it was a screen in that futuristic world. And I did everyone's artwork in that style and like made sure that it was the same font that you're gonna see on screens inside of the book. And then for Hellion and Bash, I tried to make it look like a superhero comic. Simple. I kind of copied the Invincible like and from issue 1, like how it looked on the inside cover because I'm a giant Kirkman fan. So like that's what we do. We steal stuff, I think, is the answer, right?
Yeah, yeah, that's a really good way.
And then no, what about the inside back cover? Oh, whatever is left from stuff that I promised in the Kickstarter. It's really easy.
Mhm.
Like what the like the
Like,
matter that I promised.
sometimes, like, on Green Zone, I needed every page in the book for the story. I didn't have like any extra room to put anything else. So like on Green Zone, the inside back cover is the thank yous for everybody that backed the Kickstarter and stuff. And still is in the reprint though. Though that's something that I also started doing on my inside front cover is I definitely put thank yous for all my Patreon backers
Yeah.
that support me regularly, because that regular monthly support really helps me survive as an artist doing my own thing. And so they absolutely get like that front cover status. If there's room, I'll slip the Kickstarter backers in there too sometimes, but sometimes I'll use the back cover for that. And like in Green Zone, I made a joke out of it, and it's like a page out of a police file, and it has everybody's name and then like whether or not they're a genome and like uh what their street name is, and I'd have like their screen names, or I'd make up funny names for some people and stuff, and you know if they have a criminal record or not, and I made a whole thing out of it. And so that was fun. But also sometimes I just fill it with, cool drawings or snippets or letters or something, comments. But I've really started taking like a tip from some other books that I liked more, and now I'm shooting more for an ad in the back for my stuff. Like,
Mm.
show you all my other books where you can get them and stuff. If you liked this, maybe you'll like Call, maybe you'll like Atlas. Go check it out. Have a link and a QR code that's easy to get to in there. That's what I've been doing. Let's see. The humble one says, I like to put ads for small businesses on the inside back cover. Absolutely. That
If
is
they'll
a
let
really
me.
great way to do it. Yeah.
I'm not
And
allowed in most businesses anymore, but like when I do find one that I like, I really like this really small chain no one's heard of, Pizza Hut. I give them a lot of money for their
oh,
wings, and I'd
yeah.
love to get them in there. They have like a sister company called Taco Bell, which also I really frequent often. So if I could get something
Oh,
like that,
there is this there's this little out of the way shop nearby in our town. It's one of the only restaurants in our town. It's from these two like Scottish brothers, the McDonald's brothers, I think. They make a burger. It's not the best, but apparently they've sold a lot of them.
it's so consistent is the
Yeah,
interesting thing. Is like I feel like every single time I forget what the name was called,
they
but
get a
every time
lot
I
of my
have one of those
money.
burgers, it's exactly the same. It's like magic.
It really is. It's almost like it's pumped out by a machine. And they get a lot of my money, not because it's good necessarily, but because they're one of the only restaurants in my little small town. So,
I get asked often, they're like, why do you like Subway so much? Like, why Subway? Of all the places that you can eat, like, I'm kind of like, I'm a foodie guy. Like, I love trying all the local places. Why Subway, though? And I'm like, well, two reasons. Number one, it was the only restaurant in my hometown that wasn't a bar. So, like,
mhm.
if you wanted to go in and not get all of the secondhand smoke, you had to go to Subway. Number two, I worked there for a long time. I'm a certified sandwich artist. I did all of the sandwiches. So like I'm an expert at Subway. I guess secret third thing, it's across the street and it's hard to compete with walking distance, like
Good is not as important as across the street. Close outdoes good, outdoes affordable, outdoes all kinds of things when it comes down to it. Close wins. I also am a former sandwich artist. I haven't continued in the field since my original little foray into it. I spent a few years in a work study program studying the sandwich arts. I feel like I took that medium as far as I was going to take it, and I've gone into other mediums since. I also pretty much don't eat. My wife hates that I won't eat Subway now, and it's not that there's anything wrong with it. Like other than the tuna that goes bad almost immediately. Uh, like seriously, by the time you open the can and mix the mayonnaise, you're on a clock, and you pretty much have missed the window by that point. By the time it gets out there, you've missed the window on that tuna. I've seen so many people get sick. I won't ever touch it, and I love tuna. Um, but aside from that, there's nothing wrong with it. I just made so many damn sandwiches. I don't ever want to eat another hoagie as long as I live. I very rarely occasionally will go in there and I'll get like a flatbread something or other, but like I'm not a bread guy anyway, and it's a very bread forward restaurant. And
Subway,
um
bread forward.
like, you know what? Out of all of the things on the sandwiches, we know they love the black olives. Oh my god, they go nuts for the black olives. But I'm thinking bread. I'm thinking that's what we really focus on. That's what we make the foundation of this, restaurant.
I love that. And like when it comes to like anything like that with like, oh, you've seen how the sausage gets made, so now you don't want to eat that. It's never been a problem for me. I know how hot dogs get made. They're still the nectar of the gods to me. Like that's I will the ambrosia that is a hot dog will always be for me. And it's the same thing for comics. I didn't stop liking comics when I started making comics and learned what went into them. I fell in love with them even more. And I'm like, I'm not one of those people. I've made a million subs. Sign me up. I'm going to Subway later on. Mostly because there's a snowstorm and I can't drive anywhere. But they're still at Subway. Those poor people deserve a tip, and I deserve a sandwich. That's the deal. My kids are getting the 6-inch sub. That's what's happening for lunch. Is there a restaurant in comics you would try? Oh man, big is it Big Kahuna Burger, Big Belly Burger, whatever it is from
Big Belly
DC
Burger.
Comics.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I want to try a Big Belly Burger for sure.
looks like Five Guys to me, and I'm a big Five Guys guy.
I've got half the criteria. I've got the big belly. I just need the burger to put
I
in
just
it.
need the burger, man. Hold on, I'll be right back. There's someone whining at my door, and I think that there might be.
I can't imagine somebody's whining at the door with a house full of kids. It's usually dogs for me.
Everybody else good?
Um,
Come on.
can I have some snow? He
Yeah, it's
said.
my dog. He's okay.
Seattle is bare and dry. Man, all you got to do is go down to Louisiana, South Texas. Oh, they got all the snow you want right there.
I was
Louisiana got
following
the most
a
snow
couple
ever.
people on our TikToks, like the Cosmic Collector. He's in Florida, and I was watching the snow come down the exact same speed that it's falling right now, and I'm in Michigan, and I'm like, "Well, this can't be good. That's
Yeah.
that can't be natural." Would you ever make any holiday comics? Ooh, that's a great question. I would love to. I wrote one of my first short stories that ever someone said yes to. I wrote a series about it was like the origins of Santa Claus, and very very gritty. I wrote it like a Die Hard thing, and it got picked up. And I thought about converting that to a comic book, but the thing is like there's so many more talented richer comic book creators who get to do those holiday things. I don't know if I could ever sell it, but if you want to put it together, Esteban, then I'm in, and I'll write it and you can draw it and you can publish it, because I'm tired and I can't be doing another Kickstarter around the
I
holidays.
I would want to do one about an obscure holiday that wouldn't sell. Like I would like to do like Arbor Day or and try and make it cool
What do
or
you mean obscure? There's a
I'm
Captain
just
Planet book coming out this week. You don't think he's doing an Arbor Day special?
like I said, obscure, pointless, unnecessary. I mean, like I have a beef with all of the Christmas shows. Like
I was like, what are you? You're
all
about
of
to
the
beef?
Christmas specials bug me on the aspect of, oh no, Santa snowed in, Christmas is over. Like like you're not still going to have all your family together. You're not still going to be able to celebrate the holiday together. It's always, oh no, without this one dude, everything falls apart because now we don't have presents and everybody's going to die and cry. And that just bugs me. And I couldn't do I cannot lie because of my Tourette's and the ADD and the OCD and the autism. I can't lie. I'm not good at it. I used to be good at it. I'm not good at it anymore. I had to leave my wife's Christmas present till like 2 days before Christmas to buy it
So
and
you
make it
didn't spoil it?
because I feel like such a liar for 2 days that I'm betraying my wife's trust and not telling her the truth in telling her that I just got her and made her, this decoration for Christmas. And it took everything I had to make it through those 2 days. So, I couldn't do Santa Claus with my kids. Every time it came up, we talked about, like, the history of, like, who Santa was and like, when we give gifts and stuff, we're doing things in the spirit of Saint Nicholas, and it's kind and it's generous and it's thoughtful, but I could never, you know, like my ex-wife, her family's tradition growing up was mom and dad always saying, "Oh, we don't have any money to buy presents. We're too poor." And then all these presents would be before at the tree, thanks to Santa Claus. I couldn't lie to my kids like that. And B, I'm just a little too selfish. And I'm not giving some strange fat man the credit for all the work that this fat man did.
I was gonna
No.
say, it has nothing to do with the fact that you have a beef that he stole your look. That has nothing
No,
to do
I
with
mean
what.
a little bit. A little bit. Little bit. We got some copyright infringement, some IP lawyers working on that.
That's the thing at my house is like when I was growing up, it was this exact same thing. We're too poor, but then presents still show up. Mostly it's because my parents were bad with money. Like they probably should have fixed the roof, but instead I got the new transformer, which like I'm thankful for, but also I would have loved a new roof. So like there's that. But like my wife has the same issue that you do. She's like, we're not saying that's from Santa Claus. That costs $75.
Yeah,
That is
I
from
pay good
us.
money for that. I'm getting the credit for that.
And so like it's the exact same thing. But yes, if you want to create the Christmas anthology, I will definitely write a story. All right. That's on you, okay? Because like Silver Phantom said, it's -9 outside and I can't be doing this. Like I'm not in the writing mood around December. Me and Fish had to like get together. We had like a lot of stuff to do as December rolled around, and we were both like, "Is there any way that we can push this off to future TS and future Fish? Can we just like
Let it
make
be
them
their
hate
problem.
January because?" I don't want to be doing that crap in December. So if you start working on it right now, if you need a script like in March, I will give it to you. But if you ask me in December, you're gonna go fall in a hole because I'm not doing it.
I did a Christmas themed horror anthology segment this last year that came out like in July, and I sent some of them out, I think maybe to my Patreon backers. I have some of my comp copies over there, and my story was a lot of fun. It took place on a planet where like humans have gone here to like mine the planet, and there's these little elf-like creatures, and they're using them as slave labor, and then they start fighting back, and they start this chant, and then this giant vaguely Santa Claus looking slug monster thing busts in and like starts eating all the guards. And oh, it was fun and it was gory. It is my first time drawing intestines in years.
I
And
made you draw intestines last month.
I know, and I've done it again like since. I forgot how much I enjoyed doing it back in the day.
I thought you
But
were being sarcastic when you texted me. You're like, no, I love drawing intestines, so it'll be good. And I'm like,
it
that's a weird thing to say to me, Fish,
I
but all right.
honestly I did a whole series of artwork, gosh, probably 20 something years ago now, of like sexy cyborg women that were disemboweled. It was really gross. It was really gross,
What'd you
really
just say
weird.
to me?
And uh and like there's like car parts and stuff put in there talking about references. I was looking for like mechanical references, so I'm like popping the hood looking around for cool shapes and stuff, and and then taking my best guess at what lungs look like, and from Ref the one thing I won't do is, like, I don't wanna look up burn victims and stuff. Like, I've I've had several burn victims in my life, like after the fact that I've known, and so I know like what the after effect scars look like, but like I don't want to look that up. I don't
No.
want to look up those reference photos.
Every
So,
writer that I know like jokes that like how many FBI watch lists are we on for the stuff that we've written? And I've written a few horror stories and I've written a few thriller, like it's like crime thrillers, so there's like serial killers and crimes and stuff like that. And like the stuff that you look at, I'm trying to be so careful because number one, I don't want to steal and use somebody's misery in a book for
mhm,
something like
yeah.
that. But I want it to come off as realistic. I want you to feel like you're in that story. So sometimes when you get into stuff like that, man, it's kind of hard to know what to look at. Like I want to be able to sleep at night. You know what I mean? I don't want to be thinking about this.
And trying to find ways to word your searches so that you find what you're looking for, but don't get inundated with things you don't
Don't
want.
want to. Oh my god. Well, that's the
Or
thing with like we talk about some social media, man. Like it's
oh
like I
man,
don't want that to be my algorithm on TikTok. Like
yeah.
I want it to be cute cat videos and fishes speed drawing. That's what I want on my feed. I don't want to see other stuff.
Hmm. Oh
What are we gonna
man,
do?
and it that algorithm changes
Oh yeah.
quickly. It changes
I liked one thirst
quickly.
map TikTok, and now it's like that's all I see on all of it.
Oh man, and signing up for any new what I've noticed signing up for new social media with like Lemonade and Blue Sky and all this stuff is because I haven't spent enough time there to build up my own algorithm of what I look at. They're like, "Oh, well, he's a dude, thirst trap bikinis, chicks twerking in the camera. Like this is what he wants." And I was, "No, that's not." But try
There
to
are better sites for that, is what I always yell at my phone. I'm like, listen, this is nothing. I can get a
there are
much
better
better than this.
specified search engines than this
Exactly, that are much better at this than you do. I don't need any of this. I need
Oh
cats.
man.
I need comic books, and I need someone telling me what I just saw in a movie because I didn't understand it. But with
That's
this,
it's one of the reasons that I had to make a rule for myself that I'm not doing any more Nazi stuff. I don't
yeah,
care that they're the bad guys. I don't care that we're beating them up. I am tired of having to search for Nazi propaganda images to know how to make the banners and stuff. I'm tired of it. I don't want to look for it anymore. I don't want to search for it anymore. I don't want that being confused in my algorithm that Google has on me if this is the stuff that he looks for. Like when you add that together with like, crying elderly black man or crying Korean woman and all the other weird stuff that I have to search for and, AK-47 and stuff for reference photos. I I don't need that mixed in the mix of weird stuff I already have to search for reference material and, combined with like wasps and all this other stupid stuff that I have to search up.
the
All right.
amount of bug stuff that we've talked about for random characters, we're like, I remember it was like one of the first streams I ever did with you, and someone asked a question about one of your new characters that we were coming up with on the fly, and I started spitting out like bee facts, and I remember you're like, why do you know so much about bees? I'm like, listen, that's just how it works as a writer. It's like sometimes you know shit about bees, and then you started spitting the same thing about ants. I'm like, I guess this is where we're at now. I guess we are a bug podcast. What do we, TS, you should write a comic about a comic book writer artist who unfinished comics come to life due to a freak radiation spike from a comet. And now you have to finish the story to defeat the character. That's too
That's
real. That's
that's a cool idea
that's a
though.
great idea,
That's a
Steven.
really cool idea.
But that's so
Oh man.
stressful because that's too close to my real life. You know how many times me and Fish have gone, okay, we need to go find some work because rent is due.
Unfinished comics, you would be taking on like 15 different stories at the same time.
There's 40
Like
million of them, man.
if it's unfinished comics we just have like laying around, if it's stuff on my hard drive springing to life that's not finished, there are thousands of characters drawn in there that haven't had finished stories yet. I'm a dead man.
There's a joke in a lot of our like little TikTok groups, especially with Alex from Lucky 33 Comics, that me and Fish have all these secret comic books because we work on so many series for ourselves and just like off that we're just waiting to do stuff with. So we have finished comics and finished scripts and like half finished like books that are like 14 pages long. So every once in a while we're like, yeah, we have a book for that, and we'll share it. And they're like, where did this book come from? Because we've just been sitting on it for so long for a bunch of stuff. And like, so if they came and got me, if I had to finish all of those, we'd all be dead. The comet's hitting us,
Oh man,
but
I've got a
we're done.
graphic novel that's been percolating in my brain for like a good 3 years at this point that's for down the road in Green Zone as like a side story for one of the characters that we've seen in one book so far.
Is it the one
And
that I wrote? Because otherwise you have
oh
two.
no, 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 this is another story.
This is what I'm
And
talking about right here. Is
and
I wrote a graphic novel for
it's for
him, and I'm
one
like, oh, same
character's
thing.
daughter and that we haven't
Oh,
even
that
seen
one.
yet.
I
Yeah,
know.
that
Yeah, I
one.
know what you're talking about. Yeah,
And I mean, oh my god, there's so much stuff that's just like, eventually I'd like to get there, but it takes time and time takes money.
there's
So,
no time. With what time, with what money, and the
mhm,
other thing too is we have a million stories. I've had people come up and like, oh, would you ever do this in your superhero book, or would you team up with this person? I'm like, yes, totally, but like you have to buy them all. You got to buy the one I have out right now. You have to go check out Hellion and Bash on Kickstarter and Green Zone
yeah.
#4 on Kickstarter before I could ever do that story to even be like, that story's rad, you should write it. But also I'm like, I don't, with what time? You got to go buy the one I got right now. I have no
Mhm.
money.
Now, this is
What
a good question. What are some no-goes when making comics, like things that you're not willing to do? I've already
well,
mentioned one of mine. I've got
yeah,
some
the
more.
Nazi thing's a big thing. Same thing for me. Violence towards children, being visually depicted. It's okay if people are talking about something like that. That's the thing that I want to call attention to. But victims of abuse, if we're going to do a thing, I want it to be off screen. It's the same thing for sex in my books. I'm just uncomfortable with that, so I'm a fade to black guy for
Mhm.
serious violence and
You
serious
can
like sex stuff.
you
Like
can make it you can make it dramatic and make people know what's going on without having to be obvious. Like you can show that the mortician is a creeper and that he's looking longingly at a corpse on his thing
but you don't have
without
to
having
show
to
what
see him
happens.
get naked and go at it.
Eh,
You know?
exactly. That's so like that's a lot of the stuff. Like me and Fish, we've talked about a lot of stuff that's like crazy, and we'll put stuff in our books. We just don't always want to like visually depict it. Is the thing, at least not in gruesome detail. Like even we were talking about that kill with the intestines and stuff. The way that I
Mhm.
wrote that, that's way more gruesome. But like me and him are going back and forth, like, hey, can we make it less so we don't have to look at that thing? Because it's like that's just not something that we want to see necessarily. So a lot of those are like
Yeah.
no
I mean, like
goes, but
you see a shadow of what's going on and you see, some intestine, but you don't see it coming out. Like I've done some other stuff, and if in the right situation, like
right.
gore, I have a moving line on like Kaw is kind of silly, but he's kind of gory too. But like the silliness kind of takes away some of the like when he's cutting a snake man in half or like cutting a snake man's head off and throwing it at another guy, like that's not like looking at your sister or your mom or the lady down the street and depicting realistic violence to them. That's something that I'd really rather not do in stark graphic detail.
Right.
Cutting a snake man in half with a single blow, I don't feel quite so bad about. If there are any snake men out there that take offense to that, I
This clip in
apologize.
35 years when the snake aliens show up, oh my god, you're gonna get
I
roasted.
am
I for
always
one
willing to go back and reassess my opinions and realize with new information that maybe I had a mistaken take on that. And if it offends any snake men that have been chopped in half, I do dearly
I
apologize.
for one welcome our half snake men that are going down. Like I
Our half
appreciate your
snake
sacrifice.
overlords.
But yeah,
Uh,
like there's not a lot like, and here's the thing too, and I joke about this, but it's somewhat seriously. I'm a little bit of a tool. If you're gonna pay me to write comic books, if I can find an in, I'll write most things as long as it's not right-wing propaganda, as we talked about. Like that's the hard line for me. But most other stuff, it's like I can usually figure out a way to make it work in the story and
oh yeah, you can
make
make
it
it
good.
interesting, make it cool. Find
Right.
you can find a way to find purchase in this story and enjoy
Right.
it and make it yours and make it something cool. Which
That's
is
part of
which
our
is
job
my
as
thing.
for hires, right? Like it's like
Yeah.
to make it work. Like we serve our clients first. They're the first ones I need to please before the audience. So
And that's actually one of my big no-goes is if I can't get in your head of like, what's cool about this, what makes this awesome, like what are we tapping into that's fun and exciting, then I'm not going to do it because I'm not the guy for it. Like if you're super excited about your story about nurses and the new line of supportive shoes that they're wearing, and it makes their time on the floor so much better. And it's a whole book about conversations about footwear. I'm not your guy. If you find that super exciting and you want to make a book about that, I want you to. I want you to be successful. I want foot fanatics from around the world to buy it up in droves. I'm not your guy. I
We
don't
are the
understand it. I
most like
don't dig it.
or least sneakerhead podcast I think there's ever
Oh
been.
my
Like we
god.
just
And
dad
I
shoes.
work for so many sneakerheads. They're
Yeah,
like, "Oh,
same.
these shoes need to be really tight." I'm like, "Okay,
Tell me
yeah."
what a tight shoe looks like, please. Like, you tell me what's cool. I get made fun of so often. Like, I'm wearing dad shoes, I'm wearing boots,
I'm wearing
slippers more than
slippers
anything.
all
Yeah,
the time.
all the
That's
time.
that's my assigned footwear at work is slippers.
Oh man. Oh, you know what? One last thing before the things that I'm not willing to do is start on a project before you know what it is. So like
Oh yeah.
don't somewhat hire me kind of to talk about a thing that you don't know what you want. You just know you want to work with me.
Come do my book. We'll figure it
Yeah.
out later.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, never won't do that anymore. That's
I
the
I
long
will
go.
be open to talking to you about it. Like if we like I love TS. If he wants to like, yeah, let's work on a project later. I'm absolutely willing to talk about it, take that call, have that meeting 100%. You know, if he's pitching that damn nurse book again about the shoes, I'm not going to be in. He's got to come up with something else. But, but that and like the not safe for work stuff, I
Yeah.
just it's just not me. I Alice kind of pushes the line a little bit. Like I want her to be sexy and stuff and a little gross, but I don't want I, I'm not gonna. She's not just gonna be whipping her shirt off and jubbling her around.
That's for
It
our secret accounts that we
Yeah,
have on Patreon.
that's for signing up for the Patreon now. For as little as $5 a month.
Do you guys have a drawing/writing playlist? If so, can you share one song for us to listen to? I will definitely. I have tons of those. I know Fish also listens to a ton of
I
music.
listen to the same thing. It's my liked songs on Spotify over and over and over again every day. There's like I think 800 songs or something on there now, and I'm always adding new stuff to it. And I'm
Sure.
always like looking at the like Discover Weekly or the here's new stuff for you that you might
Hmm.
like, or the shuffle that adds in new stuff. And if I find something cool on YouTube or TikTok or something in the background, I'm like, oh, that's catchy. I'll go look it up and then like listen through those artists' songs and see if there's anything else I like and add that to the mix. So it's weird because I listen to it so much. Now my wife has these songs on her playlist that like just some dude scrolled past my TikTok feed, had like 500 followers, and now we're jamming out to this dude's song. We're like 501 and 502 on his follower list.
Oh, I love
And
that.
and I listen to his music so much that I have shifted songs in his playlist on Spotify. Like what used to be number 4 is now number 1
Oh,
because
I
I
love
listen
that
to these things
because
all the
you did
time.
it. That's so rad,
It's
man.
so
Well,
fun to do that with a small creator to
yeah,
be
and
able to do
listen, it
that.
gets them paid. Like you put it on when you go to sleep. Just put on their album. Like if you have a indie creator, put it on in the background. Like it does get them paid. Not a lot, but that's not because of you. That's because Spotify doesn't pay a lot. But do that for your indie creators. It goes a long way. I don't have any good like indie recommendations, but like I love the Beaches. Their Late Show album is a constant in the background when I'm writing. Joey Valence and Bray, love them. A lot of old school hip hop that I could recommend, but you've heard it all before. So like nothing there. I'm a big disco guy, so a lot of ABBA and stuff like that. I know I don't look like it, but I love disco. And then one last recommendation. Let's see, it's Atomic Bitch Wax is the album.
Okay, I got to check that out.
So the Atomic Bitch Wax is the name of the band. Their Gravitron album is great, but specifically Ice Age, Hey Baby is like one of my favorite songs of all time. So go check that out. There you go. You have 45 recommendations, and we should share those playlists at some point, Fish.
Uh, okay. Rod had to come in and say no one's checking the TikTok comments, so I had to come over here just to
We
repeat
can we
myself.
can like listen.
They
We don't
don't
have great
show up
creators.
over here
Yeah, they don't show
in
up,
this,
and
and I tried pulling it up on my phone, but it won't show me my TikTok live for some reason.
all right, I'll bring it
So
up. I'll bring it up so I can
I couldn't
dunk on
see it.
Rod real quick.
And so he had to come over here to say, "Look at those two handsome
We're
MFers."
gorgeous, and I appreciate you noticing, Rod. I think you need to grow a beard. I think that's the reason why you haven't been finding as much work in comics. I think that
Yeah,
that's a
it's
big
really
part of it.
it's a beard thing.
It's
You know, when I started this, I only had the chin beard. I only had the little bato beard, and I did like, a book a year. Once it grew out, oh man, the speed increased like crazy.
and as it gets grosser, like I haven't showered yet today. As it looks weird like this, that's when people want to do like
Oh man.
camera meetings. That's when I get Zoom invites, and I'm like, this is going to be really embarrassing for me. But here's the thing I noticed: while I am off-putting, if they think that they're more handsome than me, they're nicer to me. So it's like, oh, this poor ugly guy, we got to give him a break. So like, it honestly, it works
This
in your
poor
favor.
little homeless man just
Look at
needs a
this
job.
homeless comic book writer. And listen, I know I do. I look like an unhoused wizard most days. I have this like giant flowing like wizard robe that I wear. So like I get it, and partly it's on purpose, and partly it's because that is my true form. Abba is awesome. Thank you, Steven Reacts. You're the best. We did miss
We
one
had some
from.
questions up here like favorite weapon to draw and use. 100% my favorite weapon is like the fist launched like laser bolt thing because it's easy. I draw fists all the
You draw
freaking
fists
time.
all the time.
I love I love those energy blasts so much because they're so easy to do. Um, I draw a lot of 1911s for some reason, handguns. It just
I,
seems to be that's the thing
It's
that
just like
comes
it's
up
like
a
the
lot.
default hand when you picture one in
Yeah.
your head. That's usually what comes up. And like 'cause that's the same thing for me. I love anything laser beams, like so because lasers are so fun to draw, and it
Mhm.
lets me use so many like straight tools, so I don't have to try to like freehand something because I can't do a straight line to save my life.
I love
Um,
trying to come up with a cool looking like ray gun that looks neat, looks believable, looks like parts do things, but isn't just like a big rectangular cube like shape like in the 90s when you could just make big cylinders slapped together and put some vents on the side and it was a gun. Uh and I like vents on the sides of things. Like I still there's some things from that era that I love and I keep, but I like putting all kinds of cool shapes together and make cool looking
we
stuff.
need more pouches in your books. I don't think you have enough pouches
Oh
on a lot
my,
of your
there's
characters.
there are more than you would think. Like Green Zone, everybody has pouches because they're cops.
They got the police
Uh,
vest, right? Right.
in Alice, Rabbit has one giant pouch. He has a bag that he carries around on him all the time. Like I sneak a lot of pouches into places, and I kind of giggle every time I do it because I'm thinking back to the '90s. And I'm like, but it makes sense that like this dude would have
See,
it,
so that's the thing. I've just been missing them because they're hidden Easter eggs. I need to go back
or
like,
like
where's Waldo? Where are
military
the pouches?
characters. So many of the military characters have all these big pouches on them because that's what they have, and I'm giggling the whole time that I'm doing it.
Are
Uh,
you guys going to make a manga? Well, you can go check out Tokyo Fire on my website, campykillcreations.com right now. It's the closest thing to manga that you're going to get. But it does go left or right still because we're in America, dang it.
America.
Um, and it was easier for my brain to understand. Even though I love manga. I'm reading One Piece right now because I had to go my full weeaboo and watch 1,000 episodes of it. But yeah, so Tokyo Fire, very manga inspired. If you like anything from like the cyberpunk genres, it's really based on Akira and Pro Mare and Studio Trigger stuff. So if you like that stuff, go check out Tokyo Fire. Fish don't recommend anything because they like you more and they're going to go check out yours instead of Tokyo Fire. So don't you dare.
Oh, I'm not, but I just want to say every new book that I start on, I seriously debate doing a manga and I want to do because I love
We
black and
should
white.
do it.
That
Yeah,
is
we
my
should do it.
absolute favorite is black and white. I like that size actually better. Um
I feel
I
like it
would
makes every like page pop more because you're not trying to put 17 panels on the page.
mhm.
I really dig that. This is how you find out that we write a manga. This is how
Yeah.
it happens.
This is where it happens. Somebody asked a question on the podcast. The next thing you know, the next book is the manga version of, Green Zone meets Tokyo Fire. Um, let's see. That's like Bruce Timm. He's my favorite artist because I grew up with the DC shows, but finding out he had this other side to his art was like, what? I don't know
Yeah,
about
that's
the
like
other
a lot
side
of
to
like
his
anything
art.
that he's gone back to. You're like, oh wow, okay, this is what he wanted to be doing clearly. And like it's like I don't know judgment, but it is a little bit of like I found you when I was a kid, and this is what you're doing now. I'm like, oh, it does hurt sometimes, but
Mhm.
everything grows up.
Thank you, man. Absolutely. I would love to be on your podcast. I have a book coming out February 3rd, launching around the same time as TS's. And I'd love to come out and talk
We
about
got
that
stuff to
anywhere I
plug.
can.
The one thing you got to know, you got to be careful what Steven reacts to, is he's a big Gotham fan. You remember that terrible, terrible show that was
Oh,
on
man, I
Fox?
loved Gotham.
Damn it!
I
No, no,
loved
not
it.
you too. Okay, you'd get along with him. We
Oh,
were arguing Smallville versus Gotham for a
that
while.
is one of my favorite Penguins.
Oh, okay.
Because
Listen, I
like
agree with you there. I
watching
love the
him
Penguin on that
go
show.
from a nobody holding the umbrella to like watching him grow to be a powerhouse. I freaking loved that interpretation of the Penguins so much. Uh,
Well, then I can't besmirch it. Go get on their show and make me look bad. But so
had a beard when I ran my first Kickstarter. It fooled no one. Oh, poor
been
dude.
drawing lots of Bayonet Spanish fighting stick. Oh, yep. That's fun because you can take lots of liberties. Heck yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's a good one. I
Tell
like
them
that
about
too.
Colonel Jefferson. It's got 4 pages where it turns into a shonen manga. Colonel Jefferson is this magical book that switches genres and art styles as number one, gets better at drawing as he started.
I have bragged about him so much for that.
It's
Like,
so cool,
dude,
man.
dude is a writer, had a book that he wanted to make, couldn't find an artist, that he could afford, and nobody wanted to just volunteer and draw it for him. So, dude just freaking taught himself to draw. And I brag about this guy all the time, especially when people are hitting me up and they're like, "Hey, I want you to do my book," and then they realize that like I take payment to do drawings. What? You don't want to draw it for a portion of the toy sales someday? No, I don't. And I tell them like, dude, you could learn to draw. It's not a magic thing that nobody can do. Rod taught himself how to draw, and it's good. I mean, it starts out serviceable and looking like very like 90s zine, underground vibe, and he gets freaking good. Like his stuff is solid now.
It's the
Like it
best
is.
meta commentary. I don't want to spoil anything in the book. Colonel Jefferson #3 is coming out soon. But the idea, you have this character who's kind of a bad guy. The main character, Colonel Jefferson, is this really uh, really confused guy, kind of this right wing guy. And as he becomes a better person and kind of learns more about the world and how to be and how to exist without all this hate, through meeting his non-binary neighbor who becomes his like sidekick, he becomes a better person. And as he becomes a better person, Rod's art gets better because you can see it, and it's such a cool like meta idea that he didn't even do on purpose, but it works so magically in that book. I love that book, and also now Rod is really good at drawing to the point where like I bet you it's difficult for him to go back as he's finishing issue 3 because he's not quite there yet, or he's got to keep it consistent. So I'm like, is it
Oh, and the
struggling like trying
desire to
draw like
like
he
go
used to?
back and redo everything is
Yes.
real. I know that feeling. Let's see. Rod says also, why am I in an empty chat room? Is Fish's Feed the real one? Yes, Fish's Feed is the real
Yes,
one.
go to the YouTube. Go to the
Yeah.
YouTube where we're all chatting with all these people. And you're not alone. I'm looking at the live chat on TikTok. You got Mr. Midlife Crisis in there.
What's up, midlife?
What's going on? You got Sleek Comic X. Yay, Fishman. I have a
What's
short
up,
comic
Sleek?
to you to do small comic strips. Listen, if you pay Fish enough money, he'll do anything. And I mean anything. That's what the OnlyFans is for. Uh, Jermaine Rogers says, "Breath forward. I began working on my own story. Do you have any advice?" Jermaine, we have so much advice. We just did a bunch of different podcasts talking about advice. But the biggest thing that I can say is do it. Finish an issue. Like finish the work from start to finish. Do all the stuff. And you're going to learn everything you need about going forward. Number one, can you do it? Do you like this? Do you love it? Because there's not a lot of money in it to do it. And TS lost of it, dang it. But also it's like, do you really enjoy doing this part? Because there's not a lot of money in it, so you got to do it for the love. Fish, hit him with some advice.
Absolutely do it. Finish it. Knock out books. Do it. Just keep putting out books. Like you're worried that your first one is going to suck. It's not going to be good enough. Absolutely, it will suck. All of our first books sucked. Everything that
Speak
I
for
worked
yourself.
on up until I'm speaking for yourself too. everything that we've worked on, gets better and better and better. And like Team Man wasn't the first comic book I ever did, but it was the first one of my own that I finished and self-published. And even looking back at it, there's a whole lot of things that I could do better. That's why I did the remastered version, and I relettered it and I colored it and I added some pages that I had to take out because of page count and stuff. And it's better. It still could have been better. I could go back and redraw the whole thing if I wanted to. But do it. You're going to get better and better. The experience you're going to learn from making them is going to be invaluable. And the mistakes that you make early on are mistakes that you will never forget. And you will always go back and check for that one thing each time. And it will help make you better and better each time. There's no experience like actually doing it. I have drawn for a living my entire life. Like, I started making money in junior high, and it has been my primary source of income ever since. And my art increased exponentially 6 years ago when I started doing comics, because I went from doing a logo design and a sketch for fun a day to drawing 5 or 6, 10, 11, 12, 20 pages a day, and just page after page, panel after panel, hand after hand after hand after hand after hand, until eventually, it becomes second nature. And I got so much better, so much faster. So do the work, do the books, you will get better. And always, if you're avoiding something because it's hard and you don't want to do it, do
Do
that
a
thing.
lot of it.
If you're
Do it a
leaving
whole
that
bunch.
if you're leaving that scene out of the book because you don't want to draw 300 people in a crowd, put that establishing shot in there and take your time, draw the 300 people. It will give you so much experience and you will get so much better at it. Like, I've done posters now for people with like 127 people in the poster. uh it's nuts. Like, I just had to do an establishing shot in green zone where you see like 100 people standing out in front of this building. And I remember when I was thinking about it, I was like, I could turn the camera and only have to draw like 10. And I was like, no, 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 no. We are doing the right shot. If I was filming this for the Netflix special, this is the shot that I would want. This is the shot that we're doing. And I just buckled down and did it. And it was not nearly as hard as I thought it would be.
Oh, and like one more thing, because it gets in the way, is like, don't just be a yapper. Don't announce the project because you want all the fanfare. Just work on it. Get it done,
Hmm.
then show it off to your friends. Then tell everybody that you made a comic book. Get the critiques. Let them, like, people are gonna hate it. People are gonna love it. People are gonna be proud of you. People are gonna be not so proud. But that's when you share it, because so many people just announce it because they get that dopamine hit. Like, oh, look, I'm making a thing, and then they never make the thing. So don't be
Hmm.
one of those people. Make the thing first and then show it off.
Finish it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
man.
absolutely.
Ghost Art Comics in the TikTok chat says, "Would you mind critiquing my art?" That's probably a better question for Fish, because I'm going to tell you it's great, and I want you to draw a comic book for me because I have a problem.
I'm probably
Uh,
gonna tell you that's great too, but if you want some advice, I absolutely will give you the best advice I can off of what I see. So, hit me up, send me a message, and I will look it over and check it out, man.
Steven Reacts 2 wrote in the TikTok chat, "Can you draw a foot?" And no, I can't. That's
I
why.
can I honestly, that is one thing. Like, I have not drawn a lot of bare feet. If I have to draw a barefoot,
You've
I
drawn a
have
lot of
to,
human feet, though, right?
like, not bare. I mean, occasionally, but like, I've drawn 1,000 more ties and 1,000 more suits than I have drawn bare feet. I've probably drawn maybe 20 bare feet, 30 in a comic book in my entire life. Like, I mean, it just doesn't come up that
It
often.
doesn't
It's
come up very
usually,
often. That should tell you something about Quentin Tarantino when you're like, oh, you see all these bare feet in those movies. It's like, we've written a lot of stories. We've drawn a lot of stories. There's not a lot of feet in there. So
I
take with
mean,
that what you will.
and occasionally I can just fake it. And, I use the same basic shape that I use to like lay out a shoe. And then I put some little nubs at the end of it. And
Drawn
that's
tons of
fine for what it is.
shoes.
And like, and doing like gorilla or monstrous feet where I can kind of exaggerate the toes and stuff is easier, because then they're like short fingers. uh and I can't really use my feet for reference because I have these gigantic flippers. They're like size 16 flippers on the end of my legs that have these giant finger like toes on the end. So if I use my foot as reference, you're going to think I'm drawing a hobbit or something, or some kind of crazy fish monster. Eddie's feet in fishtails, you see his feet, they look a lot more like my feet than like anything else that you would see. I can use my feet as a reference for Eddie's big flippers.
Steven, please
Um,
hire us to draw your feet. Listen, again, if you pay us enough money, we're gonna
so
draw and
that's
write most
something
of the anything, you know.
got to use reference for to get right, because it just
Somebody
doesn't come
else's
up that
reference. You
often.
don't just snap a
Oh
picture of your
no,
own feet.
that's not one I can pose for. It won't work. It just
So
won't.
Rod says, I can vouch it works. I put aside everything I made on the first issue of CJ and now can pay an artist for my second. Just effing do it. Heck yeah. It's true of literally
Mhm.
any craft. You can't make great art without making good art first, and you can't make good art without making crap art first.
Absolutely,
Can't
dude.
say it
That
any better.
best advice right there. That was put eloquently.
I don't
It,
understand the foot thing. Feet are easier than hands, in my opinion. Yeah, the point isn't that we can't do it. It's that it doesn't come up often to have to draw
yeah,
a
I
foot,
mean, I
put
I
it on the
can
main
draw one.
screen.
I can't do it from my imagination and get it as accurate as I could say a hand, because I've drawn a billion hands. I don't draw a lot of bare feet. I mean, shoes, I can throw out a pair of, like leather loafers easy, but I
Is
mean,
it
getting better at
easier?
making up sneakers.
Exactly. Is it easier to make stories off Earth? For me, it's not, because of the way that we do a lot
I
of
love it.
stories, and probably for fish, is like we need all of the details. We want to know how that world works, how they breathe. If okay, there's now like, and it'd be weird if they had the same lights as us. Lights wouldn't work the same way on Mars as they do on Earth. So we need to draw up
What
the
kind of
entire
technology
equation.
did they use to develop light? How do they get installed? Like, it's a whole separate thing.
So
Like,
no, not easier, because we
I
think way
love
too
it.
hard on it. It's
I
fun.
love it so much. It is my favorite thing to do. Like when I'm looking at an alien that, walks hunched over on three legs and, has these two little appendages on his side that he can articulate things with. Like, what do the seats in the spaceship have to look like? What do the
Right?
controls
It's not
look
gonna be the
like?
same seat.
What would your weapons look like? How do you design clothes? How do they get these clothes on? How do they buckle them? All of this stuff. What would tattoos look like? What does graffiti look like?
And that's the visual. Like, you
Oh,
have to have reasons for all of that stuff on the back end too, and people are going to poke holes in it. They're like, "Well, you said on page 4 in issue 1 that the religion was like this, but now they're doing a different kind of ceremony." And you're like, "Oh, well, okay, because there's 14 religions in this continent, and you have to explain what that continent." And it's
there
like,
was a denominational split at
split,
one
exactly. 'Cause
point,
it's just like
and
Christianity, but there's
yeah,
different flavors, and it's like, well, you can do all that, and it's the most fun. It is so hard to get right and to do in a way that people give a crap about. Usually they don't. No one, like we always talk about, no one will give a crap as much as we give a crap about how that fabric is made that your superhero's
on the
wearing.
nice side, like, you can make a spaceship look like almost anything
Whatever
and
you
be like,
want.
"Okay, that's a spaceship." And you can't necessarily do that with, like, a plane or a taxi. I can't just decide, I'm gonna put wheels on top of the taxi and have somebody say, "Oh, that's a taxi." You're like, "What the hell is this?" But, if I want to put the wings up here, down here, back, whatever,
It's
or put
space. You
the
can't tell me where I can put the
yeah,
wings.
you could do whatever you want. It could be any shape and design. I freaking love that. I love just taking stuff on my desk and moving it around until I come up with an idea and make a spaceship out of it.
What was the one we were talking about last time? You're like, I need a spaceship, and you looked around and you grabbed something. You're like, this is a spaceship now. What was that? Was it
Oh
like
man,
scissors or something?
I in the Mighty Caw for sure. I don't remember what we did, but
Uh,
I know in the Mighty Caw in the first issue, the Talon, the alien spaceship that he's on, is literally my box cutter that's over
that's what it
there
was. That
and
was
my
the box cutter.
screwdriver put together, and boom, that's the spaceship, and
And
it's
it
got
looks
all
rad.
this.
It looks so
Yeah.
cool. Like I loved writing about that. Like when you let me write a story, it was like the first I said let me. It was like the first time I have ever like worked for hire, and I was like, hey, how weird can I get? And you're like, oh, dude, I put any sort of crap that I find in this world. This is toys hitting each other, put crazy stuff in there. And like sometimes that's the fun of it, is like, well, I can write this weird thing in here. Fish will find something on his desk to draw it. It'll be in there, it'll look dope. Uh
Absolutely. I will figure something out.
Uh-oh, you're
Uh,
telling me you won't draw my Roman a clef about the creator of WikiFeet script. If you pay enough, it will happen.
I may get creative with the dirty scenes, like not like make it quite so obvious. Maybe from her perspective, be like, as he's, on her feet or something. But like, I mean, you can do it without doing it. Like, that's the thing I love about like Psycho. it's still creepy and scary and stuff without showing the knife going into her. And uh not the
Your
dead note man.
imagination,
That's
in my opinion, is always going to be
oh,
scarier than what I can
it's
show you.
so much better. The Blair
Especially in
Witch
comics. I
Project.
don't know about other people. I don't get scared in comic books. It doesn't have the right kind of stuff to actually scare me. I like it's thrilling and I love to see
I
the
will
peril of it, but
cheer, I will yell out sound
I'm not
effects
like
and stuff, but I'm not gonna be like, "Oh my god." You know, I sometimes will be like, "Oh shit," when I turn a page to like see what
right,
happens next,
right.
but I'm never like gonna get a jump scare out of a comic book.
It's just not
Um,
the medium, right? Like it's just not how it works. But
but you can make it creepy and stuff like Blair Witch Project. The only thing you ever see are stacks of sticks, close-ups, and then one dude standing in the
standing
corner.
in a corner,
And
it was the
that is the
scariest thing I had ever
scariest thing in
seen.
the whole freaking movie, and it's terrifying, and that has been my goal. That set a target in my mind of I wanna make you scared without, like, being like, "Boogie, boogie, boogie, boogie," without having all the blood and the guts and the knives, and, like, I want you terrified of, like, what's coming to get you and what could it be. I love that. I love that. I love it.
My issue is pen to paper. Is it in my head and I can know what I want, but I feel like I'm copying people's art, and as an artist, that bugs me. Oh, like, yeah, that's fair, but, like, the thing you gotta get away from that. If you're gonna create anything, number 1, you gotta remember a million other people have had the same idea and probably put pen to paper with it and created it. Nothing
Mhm.
is wholly original. It's not where it's gonna be. You're not the first dude to write a superhero comic. You're not the first dude to write a story where a chick puts her feet in front of the camera. You're not gonna be the first one to do it. You're just not. That no one is that visionary. Other people have done it and they might have done it better, but they did it differently. You're not going to do it the same as them. That's where the magic comes from. It's in the execution. You're going to do it differently than they did. So you're not copying people. There's a reason why the word art style exists, right? Is
Mhm.
because art styles can be similar, they can be different. I learned how to draw specifically from watching some of my favorite artists. So my artwork looks a lot like them. Fish has his own exact like art style, but it's not like it doesn't look like anybody else's stuff ever. We can point to work and go, oh, it looks similar to that kind of.
Mhm.
But
And
art has
my work evolves, and when I see somebody who's doing something better than me, I look at how they're doing it, like what tricks and tropes and caveats are they using to make it look cool, and I will take that and apply that to my work if I like it. Like, uh, I buy the series of books, How to Think When You Draw from I don't know the dude's name. He got famous on Instagram with his post, and he gives all the art away for free of like how to think when you're drawing. But he also sells the collected books at the end of each year, and so I buy them as my birthday present to myself because I like flipping through books. And I absolutely stole his technique of taking fingers from like three knuckles to just like two. And 90% of the time when I draw a finger, it's straight line, and I just leave this one out
and your
because
fingers look awesome.
at a distance, that's more information than you need for it to read as a finger. Like at a distance, one bend is plenty and you know it's a finger. If I need to make a fist, then I make a fist. When you get up close in the camera, yeah, I'm going to draw those. But back here, absolutely stole this technique from the dude that he gave away as, information free on how to draw better. And I saw it was better and more effective than what I was doing. And I took it as my own. It still looks like my drawings. It still looks like my style. It's just, we're always evolving, man. And
Chumps copy artwork. Artists steal tools. Like
mhm.
that is how it goes. Like you're not copying art, you're copying their technique, and that's beautiful. And you're it's gonna become your own way faster than you think if you use it properly. So like you don't have to. In this exact same thing, everything that we just said goes for writing as well. Like nothing I've done in my writing style has been done purely by me. Everybody else has done it before too. Like that's how it works. I didn't create a screwdriver. I don't feel like I'm stealing it every time I use it to build something, you know?
Nah. Uh, which do you prefer, color or black and white? I 100% prefer black and white, especially really good black and white. I love it. That's all I wanted to do when I grew up. I wanted to do indie comics. They were black and white. I studied zipatone and halftones and shading and ink washes and all this stuff to make the coolest black and white comics I could. And by the time I got to work in them, everything had moved to color.
It's moved to
And then
color.
I had to teach myself how to color. And I'm getting good at it and I'm getting paid to color now, which is freaking nuts to me because I still don't think I'm a colorist, even though I've been doing it for a while now. Um, I love black and white. They're my favorite stories when they're done right. I hate a really muddy black and white book where you can't tell what's going on. Um, it can be done really badly, and they don't sell as well. Like I trying to pitch the first T-Man and Hyperstrike, which was grayscale, to people, and as soon as they flipped it open and like, oh, it's not color, and they throw it down and walk off, as opposed to flipping a nice colorful book at a stranger, and they're like, ooh, bright color, shiny, and they come in for a sale. Color sells easier. I would prefer to be doing black and white. I love the challenge. I love the creativity. I love the look. It is my passion, but it doesn't sell as well.
I love black and white. I've been fighting with one of the artists that I'm working on a book right now because he really wants to color it, and his colors are good. But I'm like, this is a black and white book, like you can see it. This is a '90s black and white that you're going to see on the shelf. And like Rod says right now, so black and white's making a big comeback lately. It totally is. I have talked to publishers, I have pitched books, and they're like, we're going to buy this. It's black and white. We like it. It will sell better if you color it. So even though it's come back and people dig the style, when you're talking to the general audience, if you're trying to get eyes on it, you got to do it in color just because that's what the majority of people think means finished. That doesn't mean
Yeah.
they think it's better. It doesn't mean it is better. It's what they think a finished product is. And that's, I would say 110% of the battle with indie comics is showing
It's
that it's
still
not
that
amateur.
mindset of
Yeah.
like the comics in the newspaper. Like, well, the weekly ones are black and white, but the real ones
Right.
on Sunday are in
Sunday or
color.
color. And
And
it's hard enough for us as indie creators to go, our book is just as good as what you're going to get from one of these big publishers. So even though I love the black and white look, I try to put everything in color because I don't want anything to stop you from opening it up and go, wait, is this an image book? Like I
yeah,
want you to be confused. I want you to be so surprised that this crap is good. That you go, hey, T.S. Luther, actually pretty good. That's what I want from it. So every time Fish tries to give me a black and white book, I'm like, quit phoning it in. I paid you millions of dollars for this book.
I am still going to draw my books 90% of the time so that they look good in black and white and could absolutely be published that way. But we're going to color them 90% of the time because that's what sells
I
them.
almost hit you up when you hit me with the inks for the book that we're pitching right now because I'm like, this is a black and white book. Look at how good this looks.
Oh
And
man,
before I even could, you're like, don't worry, I'm gonna do the colors. We need to do it in color. Here's my idea for the palette. And I'm like, you're right, but man, did it look good in black and white.
I would love to throw some halftones and stuff in there in some places, and I think it would be so beautiful in
Do
a
we do a
cool
black and
black
white
and white.
version after we sell this? If we get a publisher, do we go, hey, for the fifth issue, we want to do a reissue of one in black and white? Like,
I'm just saying,
it's
wouldn't
so
be
good.
it looks nice. It looks really good.
But also
And
your colors look awesome. Like we went with this like 80s vibe, so it looks like Monster Squad and all these like old like Goonies. Like it's almost
mhm.
like a muted like matte palette. And it looks so dope and it looks so much of the time. But sometimes it's the like the like hipster in me, like watching Clerks from like, but if this was like black and white, wouldn't that just be so rad, you know?
Oh yeah, I love it. I absolutely love black and white. Like I said, I would be perfectly happy doing black and white for the rest of my life. And maybe someday I'll be rich enough that that's the only part I have to do, and I can hand the color off to somebody else. But for
It's
now,
there's also no money to share. That's the thing is there's not enough money for us to let alone like I want a team of 7 people. I love
mhm.
working with people. My books are so much better the more people I bring on. It's just how it is. I am not a visionary. I'm not an auteur. Like every idea that Fish gave me for the recent book, I was like, yeah, that's it. That's the thing. Like because like my script was good. It's a good script. I love that script. But what Fish brought to it, way better than what I had. It's just like it's how it goes. And vice versa. There's so many books that Fish has like brought me onto, and I'm like,
Oh
hey,
yeah,
what about this idea? And it was cooler than what we had separately.
and that's one of my biggest pieces of advice if you're wanting to write something is find that group of friends that are other writers and creatives, people that love comics with the same kind of passion that you do or the medium that you're working in, and get a group of friends that you can trust, that you can bring in. And like I like to do a video call just because it gets us all there, we can see facial expressions and stuff, and I like to just talk through ideas for a book, and the ideas that other people will spit out at you and be like, "Oh, well, wait a minute. What if we turned this part and moved it over here? What if we split this scene up into two different scenes and had it before and after this thing happens and it's foreshadowing and or, you know, the little things or like if you're like, "Hey, what if I add this drama that I had from my brother as a kid and we added that into your story and made that a cool extra part?" And it just makes the final product so much richer and cooler and more complex. It's like more facets on a diamond. And you might have had a really good idea, but now it really
But now it
shines.
shines. But
And
like it does
love
have
it.
a double-edged sword because sometimes you go into those meetings and we're going to focus and we're going to write issue number 2 of Alice. And what happens is we come out of it and we've gone, all right, we started 17 new books, 2 new universes. Uh
No,
and
didn't
that's like
happen.
it happens every single time, and we're like we get so excited, and we're like, hold on, though. I just got paid to do this one, and we got to go do that one.
Didn't happen.
Like so, it like it does happen that way. Ghost Art Comics has a bunch of stuff in the TikTok chat though. It says I've been trying to dip my toes in the industry more and more. I've been a colorist for an indie comic. I was wondering if you guys need an inker or colorist. Um, uh, DM me. I don't necessarily need anything right now, but we can like put your name out there and get you involved with more
DM me
people.
too.
Yeah,
I'm always looking for a colorist, though finding somebody I can afford on indie comics is tough, especially my own indie comics. But I also have people hit me up all the time asking me. So good, if you've got good quality work, I'm always making a list of people. So when people hit me up about stuff, I have people to point them to. So
that's same for me. So definitely. And then like, have you ever done like a black and white style so people can like color it like an adult coloring book? I haven't done it like specifically, but that's a really common thing. Like if you put black and white art up and it looks good, people will go and practice and color it. That's a really common
that's
thing
something
for
I've
people to do.
really thought about doing with Caw, particularly because Caw is very graphic and very like cartoony sort of. I thought about like trying to rework each panel into like one coloring book page and make like a big fat coloring book with the little story underneath of like, oh, Caw slices a snake man in half, like the old like, Spider-Man ones that would have a little bit of story underneath it as he's like, webbing Doc Ock or whatever. I think that would be fun to do.
Like, it makes me think of Bear's post-it art series that he's been doing. Love that, genius. Wish I thought of it. It looks so good, but like I love the ingenuity of stuff like that.
Mhm.
Again, as a writer, it's like I don't come up with that stuff because it's not necessarily how I'm creating things. But
It's harder to be like, "Let me write a story about Doc Ock on a Post-it note." Like, that's harder to do. It's
it
harder to
really
translate.
it
Just like
doesn't
it
really work.
shows, it's easy for us to sell a sketch. It's harder for you to like, "Let me write you a poem." Like,
Right,
it's
you can't do it. It is like a really hard thing to do. It's one of the reasons why I post a lot of my artwork still on TikTok. People are like, "Oh, do you draw comics?" I'm like, "No, I write comics." Funnily enough, that you should ask. And they're like, "Oh, I don't care. I thought you were going to draw something for me." Uh, are there any of your characters that you don't see anyone else writing, keeping their story for yourself? Are there any you'd be interested in seeing someone else write? Oh man, that's totally there. Me and Fish talk about this a lot, where it's like there's some stuff that we save because we want to do that ourselves. We don't want to take it to a publisher, or we don't want to like team up with new people. That is our idea. The good thing is once you do the job for a long time, and Juan, you probably know this. I know you've written stuff before. It's that like you have enough ideas that you can save some for yourself. You don't
mhm.
have to use them. I used to be really precious with mine, where I'm like, I don't want to pitch that. I don't want to work with this artist because I have this really specific idea in mind. And then more ideas came. It wasn't the last idea I had. I got a million of
Oh,
them
yeah.
now. And so I'm not as precious as I used to be about it, but there are still some that I'm saving
Like,
for a rainy
I
day.
was super precious about the story that became Alice Lost in Wonderland, and it's not something I ever would have considered sharing with anybody, at first, but then, like the more me and TS worked together on other things and other books that we were working on, the more I realized like we think a lot the same way. He's got a lot of the same ideas. And I realized, if I let him play in my sandbox, it doesn't mean it's not my sandbox. He's not going to take all the sand away and take my toys. He's just going to play with them and tell a cool story. And so I'm a lot more open to that now than I maybe would have been. Like some of them I would be more careful with, like Virgil, I'm kind of protective over in a horrible way. Like if you wanted to come in and write a story for Green Zone, let's say, and you wanted Virgil to win and everything's happy and everything comes up roses for him,
That's not that book.
that fundamentally goes against like what his character has to go through. He's got a lot of stuff to go through. He's got a lot of shit to grow through before he sees the sunshine. It will happen eventually, but it's going to be pretty dark for a while. And so like, as long as it fit within the overarching narrative, I'd be open to it.
But yeah, like that's and there's never been something though that like an idea that I've come up with that I've gone, I want somebody else to write this because that I'm a writer. Like that's the thing that I've done. And sitting with Fish, not super often does Fish come to me with an idea that he wants someone else to draw. Like that's just like that's
Well, I mean, I would like it, but
it wouldn't be as good as
I'm
what
more
he has.
affordable to myself than most other people are. So
Oh man. Go Mr. Fish. I would love to show some art and get some tips.
sure
Yeah,
thing, man.
do it. He gives
I'm
the
always
best tips.
happy to help as much as I am. I
You should watch
appreciate that.
when he does stuff with Esteban from Ultra Comics.
Yeah.
Because like hearing them go back and forth, I'm like, oh, I just leveled up as an artist 40,000 times because you guys have so much like insider knowledge and little tips of how to do things just a little bit better. Watching you do stuff, and you're like, this is how I use this brush. So go check out the School of Fish
Oh
on
man,
Patreon, man.
all the little things like I've realized recently, it's worth stopping to take the time to do it right. Like I'm working on Green Zone right now, and I'm a lot of the scenes right now are taking place in a hospital because there was this big attack and the police station blew up. So now we're in the hospital after this, and so there's a lot of scenes in this hospital. A lot of times the background's not going to really change when we're between two beds in a hospital. One person's in one's in the other, and they're talking back and forth. The nurses are there, whatever. Most of that scene's not really going to change. So I realize it's worth my time to draw that background in detail, and then I can copy that in like 4 panels later, the next page or whatever. Stamp that in the little bit of background that you see behind Virgil's giant body. You know, it's the same image. And also, like, if I'm going to draw a big establishing shot of this wing of the hospital and all the beds and all the people and all the machinery, I might as well draw it all in good detail now. And then I have that later. If I have another book where they end up in the hospital again, I can flip it. And now it's the other ward facing the other direction and draw all the people and cover up all that cool artwork with, cool images and stuff. But take the time to do it right, especially in your establishing shots or vehicles or equipment that you could use over again. Design that computer wall out in the sci-fi super base so that you can reuse it from any angle. Take the time to do it right, and you're going to save yourself so much time and make your book look so much cooler, so much faster. Maybe it takes me an extra hour right now, but it saves me 10 hours over the period of the next 5 books because I don't have to redo that background wall 1,000 times.
And like I know what you're thinking. It's like, well, how much time does it save him? How fast can he really go? I wrote a 22-page script and handed it to him on a Monday, and the book was finished on Friday. And that was in between other jobs, podcasting, life, grandparenting. Like it helps. It goes fast. You're not necessarily going to go as fast as him at first, but like that's how fast you can get to. And here's the thing: the book looks good. It
Oh yeah.
doesn't look half-assed. He didn't like, oh,
No.
well, I'll just copy and
It's
paste it.
not
That's
like
not
you
what it
just
is.
stamp stuff over and over again.
No.
Like for he was talking about the manor in this house. It's this big detailed Victorian mansion thing. And I looked at references of different Victorian mansions and took things that I liked from different ones and things that would make it easier if it's like a mirror image on this side from this side. So it's just a little easier to know. I don't have to, it's not completely different architecture on one side of the house from the other. Um, Took all these little things, put it together, and then I made images for every flat side of this building. And I made a floor plan so I can put the floor plan in perspective. and use my perspective lines to draw up from there where the tower needs to be. Then I have the flat sides of the tower to put in place. I have the flat sides of the porch. I have the sides of the building. Put all that in there. Bob's your uncle, a couple extra lines, and the building's done. And it always looks the same. Then I can go in and draw little details to make sides look thicker of trim boards from one angle or whatever.
And it became the
And
cover for the book. Like, that was
yeah,
the thing. Like, we were going back and forth. We had a million different ideas, and I was like, "Hey, you already drew this like gorgeous building a million times. Let's show that off. That's the cover of the book, you know." And it took you 2 minutes to do the cover because you're like, "Oh yeah, I have that. Bam, done."
yeah, it was easy. We already had that part done.
And like,
Um,
whenever I ask for something too many times, I get the message, "Okay, let me go make a brush," because you're like, "I'm gonna do this." Like, I kept asking for more bats and all the stuff, and you're like, "Let me go make a bat brush so I don't get mad at you every time you ask for
and
more bats."
funny enough, like when I went to go make that bat brush, I went to look at reference pictures of flying vampire bats specifically, and because I wanted it to look as cool as I can make it look. And I realized some of the drawings that I've been doing of flying bats for years aren't real. Like there's lots of shots with them with their wings straight up,
They
and
can't do that.
I would have shots with their wings like straight down at a sharp V, like they were flapping them. They don't do that. They are up wide and then they're like curved and then they're up wide. They're like scooping the air. They never go all the way down like I've been drawing for years. I've been drawing them wrong for years. It looks cool, but it's not realistic. So my brush now looks lot more like bats flying out of something, and it's just silhouettes,
And it
but
looks
it looks
so
a
cool.
lot more like bats because I looked at references to keep it somewhat realistic.
When I wrote issue 2, I'm like, "I need more bats," because his bats looked up so cool, and I'm like, "I hope he enjoyed making that brush because I'm putting bats everywhere." Are there any of your characters that oh, no, we already read that one, sorry. From the Go, I'll be a spokesperson for you guys, no worry, I'll share and push all your guys' stuff. You're the best, dude, thank you so much.
Absolutely.
Do you prefer to
Uh,
design the place the characters live in during creation of the books or before you start to see it in the story?
that that is something that I actually wanted to talk about today. It was one of my talking points before everybody started asking great questions. Is I wanted to talk about how we've grown over the last couple of years and like what have we learned in the process. And that's one of the things that I used to be super, super, super bad about was just designing characters on the page and I'll figure it out as I go. And they usually came out looking fine, but I've learned since then it's worth taking the time, even if it's just an hour, to draw the character a few times, figure out what they're going to look like, make sure they have a cool looking design, make sure the shape language looks cool. Can you tell it's them in a silhouette compared to another character? Things like that. Are they different heights? Are they different weights? Are they different ethnicities? Is it interesting to look at with them compared to each other rather than just make it up as I go along? And that has really, really helped me come up with better looking stuff. And then I will take the time, like, well, if we're going to draw Dr. Demento's secret lair, then, what is that going to look like? Maybe I need to draw a floor plan out for it, or maybe it's all rock cave walls and super easy to draw. Maybe I just need to draw the detonator in the middle of it, that's going to kill the world and have a good reference for that. But figuring stuff out ahead of time and knowing what I'm doing going in is I like it a lot better. I actually tried to redesign Kaw for almost a week after I had the first idea for him. And the only changes that stuck were his hands got a little bit bigger. He got the feathers on the backs of his arms like body hair, and I put pants on him. Otherwise, he's exactly the same as he started out. And sometimes the ideas are good the first time, but
Totally.
it's always worth giving it some time to try and polish it and figure it out beforehand. I I try and stick to this now.
And that's the same thing as a writer, well, especially if I'm going to hand it to an artist. I think about it. I go, okay, is this character going to show up again? Is this layer going to show up again? Is this setting going to be there? Let me put the thought into it and put it in the front of the script. So before you get to page 1, panel 1, you get characters. There's a list of them. This is what they look like. This is if they're going to show up again. This is if they're a one-off. So you know how
Mhm.
much work needs to go into designing them to save yourself time. So it's like, don't put a ton of work into this dude's silhouette. We will never see him again. Don't stress about it. But this building, Fish, you're going to draw it 45 times, dude. So
Oh,
put some
yeah.
thought
Like,
into
the
this.
inside office, it was worth taking the time to invest in figuring out how I was gonna draw the inside of their office because it's in so many shots from so
Mhm.
many different angles. So I had to figure out how to do that, how to get all these bookcases and stuff. Because I started thinking about the old buildings around here, like City Hall's in, and I wanted it to look like that, like an old building that's been reused a bunch of times, and maybe it used to be a library or it was the school originally or something, and now it's City Hall, and so there's these bookcases everywhere. It's really cool.
And it's just as like put a little bit of thought into it, just like all the other stuff, and it'll make the job easier as you go. And especially if you're writing something, you need to make the job as easy as possible so they want to work with you again. So many, I've seen so many amazing books. Like the first issue, you're like, oh my god, this art is amazing, and then you see it's a different artist on issue 2, and you know what went wrong there. You know what I mean? Like, artists and letterers and all these awesome people help me bring my vision to life, and it becomes our vision. So like I try to be as accommodating as possible to make their job as easy as possible. And it's just that easy of, hey, you might need to draw this dude again. So let's put some thought into it. So doing it ahead of time definitely works better. Who was the person that surprised you the most when it came to making comics?
Oh yeah, that's it.
Oh,
I'll let you go first on that one.
oh man, I don't know. There's been a few artists that I've had the chance to reach out to, and like they're like big names. I won't mention them here, but it's like, hey, would you work on a comic book with me? And they're like, of course. Here's my page rate. Let's do this. That's always been surprising. And then the more surprising part is all the indie stuff, like messaging Fish and going, hey, would you want to check this script out? And getting a message back going, I want to draw this book. Like that's the kind of thing. Like finding out that people are so kind and want to work with you because you're willing to put the work in. If you're willing to show that you do a good job and that you'll get it done, so many people in this industry do not think that they're better than you. They're not higher on the food chain. It's not a matter of that. They're usually down. It's the same thing with all the people that have helped me at publishers. And like, I'm friends with pro artists and pro writers because they're just dudes who like making comic books. They're just
Yeah.
people that love it the same. So that's been the most surprising thing for me.
Hmm. Uh, I got to say, it's the same thing. I've been really surprised with pros from all levels, whether it's like, Stephen Butler that, made the Scarlet Spider, Ben Riley Spider-Man famous in the Spider Saga stuff, the Clone Saga stuff back in the 90s and worked at Sonic and all that stuff. Like, we're buddies. We talk all the time. We're constantly sending each other YouTube videos and stuff, and we chit chat all the time. Up to people like Stephanie Phillips, who's writing for Image and Marvel and stuff in DC now,
The
and
coolest.
has a TikTok page and answers everybody's questions and is just so helpful with any bit of information that she has. Like, I've met very few people that work in comics that aren't friendly, accommodating. There's a handful of people that got really famous and have big egos, but the majority of people are just workaday folks that are getting to do something they love to pay the bills and are really awesome. And not just to blow smoke, TS was one of the most surprising people that I met through this
Thanks,
process.
buddy.
Because, like, you get a lot of messages from people like, "Hey, will you read my script? Hey, will you look at my artwork?" And sometimes I have to get very creative to find positive things to say to not be hurtful. Well, like, wow, you used a lot of words. You used about all of them. Good job. Um, and like he said, I was kind of low key mad that I wasn't getting to draw this book by the end of the script for Hellion and Bash, which is going live soon with issue 2 on Kickstarter. Go check it out on the
Go
pre-launch
check it
page.
out. But like people are so nice, and like the best compliment I've ever gotten, I got it from Fish, and I get it from a lot of other people, is the surprise that it's good. It's actually this was really good, and I'm like that's the best thing because you thought it was going to be crap. You saw me, you heard I made an indie book, and you were like, okay, I'll flatter this guy, I'll give
Oh,
him a chance, and like
Tommy Moran at Ape Comics, dude. I backed Beats because he was a mutual friend,
He's a
and I
nice
saw he had a
guy. It'll be
Kickstarter,
fine.
and I hadn't reached the end of my budget for that month on Kickstarter, so I just backed it to be nice. I honestly didn't expect to read it. I did not expect to freaking love it. I did not expect to mention it on probably 30 or 40 or 50 different podcasts that I've been on since. But it is one of the best first issues of a comic book superhero comic I've ever seen. And I love the way he did it. I'm super excited for issue 2 to come out. I hit that pre-launch page just automatically, which it's open now on Kickstarter for pre-launch. Go sign up. Beat comic. It beats its awesome story. Um, didn't expect it to be that great. There's a lot of stuff out there that I backed that I'm just good for you, man. You made a book. I'm glad you're chasing your dreams. I hope you have a lot of fun.
Thomas is
And
one of the few people in indie comics who have asked me to write something, and like it's taken me a really long time to write it because I'm like, it's got to be really good because it's got to live up to the other stuff that you've done. So I'm like, okay, I stressed really hard about adding something to your world, and I don't know him as well as Fish. So like when Fish like let me play with his toys, I'm like, it's Fish. He knows all. I'm gonna do a good job. You know what I mean? But so there's just some books where it's gotta be difficult. Gotta dip, guys. Parenting junk. Love you, Rod. Thanks for stopping by, dude.
see you later, man.
So these answers are so helpful. Thank you guys so much for sharing the knowledge and expertise.
That's awesome.
Expertise only on Fish's side. I have knowledge. I'm an expert in nothing.
Have opinions.
Right? It's a
I have
purely
unproven theories.
Exactly. Now I'm gonna challenge to draw more. I haven't drawn since 2 years ago. Dude, draw as much as possible. Draw every day, man. You should. And if you ever want me to write something for you, Steven, like let me know. I'd love to work on something. I work on stuff with people. I just got hit up for a story that won't see the light of the day. A person just really wanted me to write something for them to practice drawing with. So like I would love to do something with you. I reread your comics so many times. It was so good. I felt like a kid all over again. Which book are you talking about? Are you talking about something from Fish? You talking about something from me? It better be from me because we don't need Fish's head to get any bigger than it already is.
Luckily, my body's proportional.
That's why you're 19 feet tall.
Yeah, I wish people would quit chatting up my belly and saying how great it is because it could use to drop a few feet. Let's see, and then Rod saying he's got a dip. Man, yeah, you said we weren't supposed to go past an hour, and here we are at an hour 41.
I know. I gotta go get work. I gotta get work done for you. I have 2 more pages to edit for Green Zone #4, which is on Kickstarter right now. Well, it's the notify me launch button is on there. So
Hellion and Bash is so good, man.
Thank you so much, dude.
Loved that one. I'm so anxious for issue 2. I'm so anxious for the whole series on that one. I can't wait to get into all the nitty gritty of that one because I know where it's headed and I'm super excited. It's a good series, man.
I appreciate that, man.
And I'm excited about Green Zone, man. This has been one of the most emotional issues I've worked on. Like I literally
cry so many times. I'm reading it and I'm crying and I'm like, okay, I gotta get my stuff together. And then you put a TikTok up and you're crying. And I'm like, God, stop it,
dude. I could not make it through the day yesterday because like Virgil has to go through so much crap, and it only gets worse, before it gets better. But to see somebody showing genuine love and concern for him, and knowing as the creator that's something he's never had in his entire life. Like this is such a foreign thing that's happening to him. He doesn't know how to react, and it. It was hard to see yesterday because my eyes kept sweating. Man,
yeah, that's right. It's something. There was just dust in both of our eyes every single time.
I was working so hard.
You should go check it out. And if you don't know what we're talking about, you can catch up on all of Green Zone by going to that Kickstarter. You hit the notify me button when it launches. Fish has catch up tiers, so you can get everything that's happened in there. So you don't have to go, I don't know what's happening. It's already issue 4. Don't worry. Issues 1 through 3 are there.
It don't have to make sense. It's fine. Make America Green Zone again. It works.
It totally works.
I'm more than a bunch of green hats. My God.
Also, hold on. Definitely go read Green Zone. Don't make Green Zone or don't make America Green Zone again. That place is bad for people. Have you read Green Zone? It's Training Day meets X-Men. If you wake up and you mutate, which can happen to anybody, it just happens.
Anybody.
You become a mutant. Now all of a sudden, actually, it's not mutants. What is the technical word? I know it's mutants for the pitch, but what is the word when people mutate?
Genomes or
Genomes. When
gnomes.
if you become a genome, your rights are stripped from you. You get moved to this bad part of the city, and like that's just you live here. Good luck,
Yeah.
Godspeed. Unless you're
Hope
pretty
you
and you,
survive.
if you're human passing and you have good powers, the government will employ you. Other than
Oh
that,
yeah.
there's nothing you can do unless you go work for the cops. And let me tell you, it's not an easy job. So go work for the cops, and hopefully, if you do a good enough job after enough time, you get your citizenship. Ask people how many people have made it to the end of that and become citizens and
Oh,
still
see,
have
it
their soul.
depends. It depends on who you ask.
Right.
Because if you ask the humans, it's like, oh well, they could pull themselves up by their bootstraps if they
Bootstraps.
wanted to. If they were willing to work hard and prove they weren't a threat, they could get out. They're just lazy and they don't want to. But when you actually get in the blocks and you try and work your way out, it's like 1 in 2,000 make it to getting citizenship. And you're way more likely to end up in prison for accidentally using your powers out in the real world
Or just
than.
someone saying that you accidentally used your
Oh
powers,
yeah,
right? There's
like,
there's so many Karens in the Green Zone universe too.
oh yeah, Bellamy's covered in quills. If she bumps into somebody and accidentally stabs them, she could potentially go to prison. Like, her training officer grabbed her arm and ended up getting stuck. By the end of the third issue, we don't know if she's going to survive from that. And she could be going to prison now. Like, you got to buy issue 4 to find out what's going to happen. Let's see.
February 3rd ish.
Yeah. Yep. February
Right?
3rd
Same
is.
thing for Hellion and Bash. Go check that out. I don't have a cool pitch for you. If you like superhero comics that Fish writes, you're gonna like the superhero comics that I write. It's basically
Oh,
it's like picture Batman and Robin, and Batman's a bad guy. We all know this. We've read those comic books. He shouldn't have a kid sidekick. That's a bad idea. Who's gonna protect that kid? You gonna stand up to Batman?
nobody.
No one's gonna stand up to Batman. That's a bad idea for you. So no one protects this kid until you get to the supervillains who are like, "Well, I'll stand up for a kid. That's wrong. I might steal
I'll
things for a
stand up
living."
against Batman anyway. So
Exactly. I'm going to get beat up
damn
by
sure
Batman
gonna stand up for this
anyways.
kid.
And that is the book of Hellion and Bash. You got this sidekick who's been saved by the supervillain, and he's getting chased by the superhero community. And that is the book. Go check it out. There was another one, copyrights, best way to get
Oh
everything
yeah.
in your name legally. Well, there's two. No, number one, you created that book. That's your copyright. People can't take
Mhm.
it. Trademarks are a different thing, but you created the book. You really don't have to stress too much on that side. But you can register your book with the Library of Congress, with the Copyright Office, get the trademark on the
Which is a
title.
slow process, by the way.
Takes forever, but you don't
Yeah.
have to stress about it. You can put the book out and start to work towards it. The big thing with the copyright, you want to put it in there eventually, is if people are making derivative works of your stuff. If you're making derivative works of other people's things, like with superhero comics, I have characters that resemble characters from other universes. You want to put that in legalese eventually so you can go about it. But it's really easy. You just type in it's like copyright.gov. You can go to the .gov websites, Library of Congress. You can start that process. It's really as simple as you submit the book when it's done.
I
It's
mean,
not super complicated.
you do have the copyright to it. When you put it out, you've done it.
It's
You've put your
yours.
name on it. You've claimed it. You put the little C on it. It is yours. You have that copyright. The federally registered copyright gives you a little bit more paperwork protection when, if somebody else rips off your idea and is using it, then you could go to court and say, well, I federally registered this one. But being able to say, hey, I published this one in 2020, and here's the printed book with
You
the
have the
copyright on it.
receipts. It's
You've
yours.
Yeah.
Like you don't have to stress about it on that level. It also it's the thing that I tell everybody. I see people get bogged down in some of that stuff as we're working in the indie space. Do not stress over that.
Mhm.
That is the thing that's going to slow you down. Make the book and then worry about it because you're not going to have to worry about that
And
for a really long time.
even at best, it's not that great a protection, really. I mean,
No,
like,
you're still going
like
to go to
I've
court if
seen
you're going to go to
people
court.
complaining that, like, well, I designed a character, with an X on his head, and then, the X-Men did, Cyclops with an X on his head or whatever, and they're ripping off my character, and I'm going to sue them. You're not liable to win because they're going to argue that nobody at Marvel ever saw your indie book, or it didn't make a big of enough impact, or they're different enough. There's enough ways to work around it. It's not like the good old days when DC sued faucet out of production, saying that Shazam was too much. It's a
So
big,
much like
strong white guy
Superman.
with dark hair and a cape. It's too much like Superman. People are going to be confused because you're outselling Superman and we don't like it. And they won. It's not like that anymore. And
There's
there's
so much
way too
established
much stuff
stuff.
out
Like, don't
there.
let it get in the way of making your book. Unless you're literally writing a Superman book, don't don't
Yeah.
stress. Like, don't worry about it. Let's see what do we got here. I just want the parents to be arrested for neglect. Word. Like that, like that's a big part of the story. Like, if you're like watching, it's a really important thing to me. It's a thing that is really important to me in my life, and I won't get into all those details, but like there's a lot of important stuff that needs to be talked about, and I use a superhero comic to do it. Like,
Hmm.
that's the excuse. It's really more about that, Steven, than it is about superheroes.
Yeah.
Just like how Green Zone is not about dudes with superpowers. It's
No.
really it's about the racism of that world. Like
Hmm.
it's training day.
Yeah.
Someone needs to write that. I mean, listen,
How do you
that's
not know your son is out there fighting crime?
right,
Absolutely. Like,
right.
y-
I agree. I make the
how do you
books
not
so
know your
familiar with all
kid's
that work
gone
and
for
properly.
12 hours a night? Like, yeah.
And better yet, that's the thing about Batman. Like, I love Batman. You got to jump through that disbelief of that thing. But like, if you put that realistic lens on it, it doesn't matter what you're doing. You're putting that child in harm's way. So like
Absolutely.
that's already an issue, and it gets brought up sometimes in comics, but you have to jump to that disbelief for like the fun of the book sometimes. And in my book, we don't do it. We're not jumping through that hoop. I want you to go, hey, that's kind of fucked up that kid got blown up while
Hmm.
fighting this guy, and everyone was like, no, don't worry, old chum, let's get back out there. Like,
We'll
no.
avenge you, teenager, whose brain wasn't fully developed enough to make these kind of decisions
You now
and
have
had no ability to
CTE.
consent to this.
Right.
Like, yeah. I mean, if you're a grown adult and you want to go out there and risk your life in your underwear, you know, smashing Nazis in the face, that's one thing. But, a teenager in the swell of being, all rounded up by propaganda films and stuff, like, he doesn't have the ability to make a smart decision and, an educated decision going into that. And it,
Yeah.
it, yeah.
And that's like we've talked about it. Like, when I first started writing for Fish, I wrote in Caw, which is it's a Saturday morning cartoon with a little bit more blood. That's what it is. It's a really fun
Hmm.
book. And then I had messaged Fish a while ago. I'm like, hey, Green Zone #4 is coming out. I didn't edit a lot of the beginning of Green Zone. You want me to edit this? I need to catch up on Green Zone. Not as familiar. Hit me up. Like, tell me about it. And he sends me the edition. I'm like, why aren't we writing Green Zone? This shit is good. This is good. Like, not that Caw is not good, but Caw is fun. When we write
Yeah.
Caw,
Cause
Caw is
fun.
like wacky.
That's all it is. It is fun. It is playing with your He-Man in the sandbox, smash them into each other.
I'm reading
Like,
Green Zone and I'm crying and I'm like, can I write something in this? What the shit? Why are we like, what are we doing? What
yeah,
do you mean that we're gonna take a break after issue 4? What are you talking about?
there's a lot of books got to get made, man.
So many books. I was just so I had messaged Fish about Helena Bash issue 2, and he goes, am I lettering this one? And I'm like, I don't know, man. We got stuff to do. And he's like, but I want to. And I'm like, but you got 3 more books we gotta get out, man. We don't have time to do this. And I'm like,
Time's flying, man. We can get it done.
we gotta reassess. We have there's so many things to do, so many awesome books, but we gotta get through them one by one. So go check out Helena Bash issue #2. Click that notify me button. It's on Kickstarter. If you go to professionalentropy.com, that's the publisher. I'm not publishing this one because I'm rad. I'm cooler than Fish. I got a publisher for this book. So you head over to professionalentropy.com. There's a big Kickstarter banner if you like that. They're publishing Tokyo Fire and Hellion Bash for the foreseeable future, or until they run out of money, because comic books are difficult. So go check that out. And do me one extra favor, okay? Diamond is in flux. We don't know who's distributing books. I wrote a book called The Digger for Invader Comics. It's coming out in September. It's being distributed by Diamond. Comic book shops are going to be ordering a lot of books from Lunar and Penguin from now on. I need you to say you want this book from Invader Comics, from T.S. Luther. What if Indiana Jones Hunted Short Round? That's the pitch. If that sounds even remotely interesting to you, if you like my hat, if you like this beard, if you like Fish enough to throw me a bone, please go and ask for this book at your comic book store.
If
Because
you wish you could grow a beard,
if
you need to
you
go
do,
ask for
like,
this.
I will cut this off and I will send it to you. You just let me know. So please go to your comic book shop and
That's
ask,
stretch goal on the Kickstarter, people. You heard it. When we hit $10,000,
I will
everybody
put
gets
it
a
down
chunk
as
of
a
beard.
stretch goal. Just please do me that favor. That's the end of my plugs. Go and check out Green Zone issue #4. Fish, plug away. Do your thing.
Oh man, Green Zone 1 through 4 is going live on February 3rd. Y'all need to go check it out. It's been an amazing story. It is like, what if anybody could be born as a superhuman mutant and you automatically lose your rights? You get shoved into the green zones and forgotten about. You live in the blocks, these giant overbuilt ghettos. And the only way to get out and make a better life for yourself is to prove you're not a threat to humanity. If you can survive being a civil servant for 5 years, then you get your citizenship and you can make a better life. So we're following a group of new recruits to the police force on their first shift as they try and navigate a corrupt law enforcement system, a world that hates them. The humans look at them as mall cops, the other genomes look at them as race traders. It's a no-win situation. But if you want a better life, if you want to get out and open a business, own a home, do anything other than live in the blocks, you got to risk your life. Will they make it? Will they survive? The police station got blown up at the end of the second issue. Like, things are not good and happy here. Virgil nearly dies trying to rescue Danny and other people from the fire. Like, you get to really see quickly what they're made of, who they are. It's a great story. And literally, issue 4 has had me crying working on it. It is powerful, it is deep, it really hits on a lot of things. It is characters based on myself and all kinds of people out of my life that mean the world to me. And I can't say enough about it. I can't say enough about it without crying.
It's
So
it's
go
so
check it
good.
out.
It's the best thing that Fish has written and put out so far, which is easy for us to say because it's the newest thing, and we say that every single time. But I really mean it. It's so good. So go check that out. I gotta go, but there's still a couple more things I want to say over here. So I agree. Make the books first, then worry about that once it becomes profitable.
Mhm.
Great tips from a much more successful indie comic book creator than myself. Thank you so much for that, Danny. And then when your character is a different sex or race than you, do you ever consider talking with someone that is about the character before putting the work out? For me,
Absolutely.
Juan, always.
Yeah.
I'm a white dude from the Midwest. I don't know everyone's experiences. I write characters from all ethnicities and backgrounds in my books because that's the world that we exist in. And I talk to a lot of people that aren't me to make sure I'm portraying those books right. The big thing with the Digger is it happens in Veracruz, Mexico in the 1930s. I didn't grow up there. I don't know anything about that. I did a lot of research, talked to a lot of museum curators from Mexico to make sure that it came through correctly and that I showcased that people were stealing. Like Indiana Jones is a grave robber and steals from these people to
Mhm.
put in a white museum. That's what the book's really about. And so I do a lot of research on that. And I know Fish does the same thing, right?
Oh
Like
yeah.
that's
Actually, part of why this had me crying in this scene was because I was writing a Korean mother character, and Danny's mom comes on the scene in the book, and I didn't grow up with a Korean mom. Surprise, surprise. I know the last name's Lee. You might have thought it's not. Uh, and so I was asking a friend of mine, Mog, from the Mog and Mel show that I'm on Thursday nights a lot of time. Amazing comic book artist. She knows what it's like to be born in Korea, to grow up here. Like, she has a lot of the same experiences that this mom has had. And I was like, what would your mom have done in this situation? And when she told me, it not only warmed but broke my heart at the same time. And as I started to extrapolate out, well, if this is how she reacts, then that means she's going to do this and that, and this is going to make her a more complicated person than I originally. She was just the mom. Now she's got a fundamental part in how the story's going forward now, because of the input that Mog had and could tell me about, like, how her mom would react. And it makes me cry now. I wasn't crying originally when I put this character in the book. And, she filled a role and did what she did. Now she breaks my heart. And that's only because I consulted somebody else and asked how they would do it.
and I
Kyron
highly
says,
recommend that you do that.
grew up with a Chinese dad, right? I had so many people convinced my dad was Jim Lee as a kid, because my dad's name is Jimmy Lee. And they're like, oh, the comic book artist. And I was like, yes. And then they would look at me, my giant white self. They're like, no, he's Chinese. And I'd be like, no, he's not. He's Taiwanese. I don't know where Jim Lee is from, honestly. But just that little lie was enough to make people go, oh, really? I didn't know. Oh, my God. I used to be a lot better at lying than I am now. I can't do it.
which we've been going so long that we actually also talked about earlier. So catch it on the VOD if you just tuned in.
Yeah, we got to get going because we got
Oh,
books to make. We're never going to get Green
1,000%.
Zone and Hellion Bash out there if
We
we don't
gotta.
stop chatting to you awesome people and go make books.
Thank you
So
so much for having us. Fourth Wall Production says we need more Tokyo Fire. I will send you more books. I got other stuff that I wrote, but Tokyo Fire is on the way from Professional Entropy. Go check it out. Thank you so much. You're the best. Bye, Kyron. As you just started tuned in. I'm at TS Luther on everything. Please go follow me. I'm really active on TikTok and Blue Sky. And again, go check out Hellion and Bash #2 on Kickstarter. Notify me when you launch. Click that button. It helps us go through the Kickstarter ranks. Fish, thank you so much for having me, dude. I have to go not neglect my children. So
yeah, me too. I'll see you over there. Bye.
bye, everybody.